Mock. We back. The TFA family is rocking again here for the first round NFL mock draft. That's right. We're doing our own. No more Dane Brugler. No more Daniel Jeremiah. Forget them. Mel Kiper, who. It doesn't matter. We are bringing you our own picks, TFA Fire picks for round one of the NFL mock draft. So thank you all for joining us. I'm Robbie Jeffries here with the Godfather, Kevin Steele, our very own Dynasty Infidel, Tom Corson, and last minute addition, but welcome to the show, Akash. He's going to be breaking down his thoughts on our mock draft. He's one of the youngest and brightest of the TFA crew, so I'm pumped for him to join us. Gentlemen, what is good? What is happening? I'm going to kick it to Kev Steele for the first word.
Like the first pick? Is that what we're already doing?
No, tell me how you are. What's happening? Tell me how are you?
It's fucking great. The NFL draft is next week, finally. Thank God. So we can stop talking about all this nonsense, and we actually have landing spots. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
And then we have nothing.
We have all kinds of things. I don't know what you're talking about. That's when fantasy football really heats up, you know?
Oh, I know. It's just one of those funny things. You look forward to the NFL draft, and then after that, there's that slight void after you do your rookie drafts in Dynasty, and you're just like
the schedule release is May 12th. So I mean, let's
my fault. Well, yeah, sorry about that. And then we get rookie minicamp. Oh yeah,
people will eat it up, man. They'll eat it up. Who's practicing? Who's looking good? Who's making the highlight catch? It's going to drive Twitter crazy, and I'm here for it.
JJ Arcega-Whiteside is going to be making those highlight catches from tight end because he's converting. Amazing job. I'm just glad Howie did it. Great job.
Without the NFL draft, that's the biggest news we have.
Yeah, it's a good point.
We have some Debo news. We have some potential fallers in the draft news. So there's news all over the place. But yeah, the latest J-Jaw moving positions. But we do have 32 picks to make. Tom, Kevin, and myself did a little bit of tinkering here, did the mock draft mostly yesterday, just doing some trades, figuring out what we wanted. Akash last minute said, hey, this sounds like fun. Let me get in and critique. So he is our official, good pick, bad pick. Let us know what you think. And we want to hear from you all as well. So drop the comments. Let us know when these picks happen, what you guys think, who we should have picked, who we shouldn't have picked, all of that. So we're going to dive definitely into the fantasy relevant positions. We know this is kind of a defensive heavy draft, but there are a lot of good names that we picked here in the first round. And so you guys, anything else before we get started? I know that Tom picked for the Eagles, Kev picked for the Chiefs. I picked for the one pick that the Cowboys had. You guys both got two each. Other than that, it was random.
Nice.
Okay, well, let's just get right on into it. Kev Steele, I believe you were first up. Am I correct?
Yep, the good old 101. So, I think conventional wisdom says that this pick would have been Aiden Hutchinson for a lot of people, but I went a different direction and went with Trayvon Walker from Georgia. He is somebody that I don't think there's a player that has moved up more than he has really since the combine. The dude is an absolute athletic freak, 6'4", 272, ran a 4.51 40. That is moving at that size. Had a 10.3 broad, 36-inch vert, and a 6.89 3-cone. He has an extremely high ceiling, but I also think he has just as low of a floor because there's definitely some concerns with him. But I think NFL teams are going to be enamored with the athleticism that he brings to the table because he really wasn't asked to. He was asked to kind of set the edge and be more of a run defender at Georgia. Obviously, that team was absolutely loaded on defense. I mean, we could see 3-4 guys go in the first round on that defense in this draft, but. So there is some concern because there's not a lot of great tape with him. Like there's not a lot of just, okay, he does that all the time. He's going to be great. He did show well in pass coverage, 26 pass snaps this past year. Shows that he's more than capable of doing that. Might be more of a 3-4, linebacker versus a true defensive end. But he also only had 11 total sacks in his 3 seasons. But again, there is some concern because of the fact that they really didn't ask him to do that, which is kind of in Georgia's scheme and the way they do things. But he right now is second in terms of the betting public of being the first overall pick, and he's probably a lock to go in the top 3. But like I said, there's definitely upside with him, but there's some downside with him as well. I think more so than anything, his just absurd athleticism. I don't know if you guys remember Akash. This might be too young for you, but Javon Curse was somebody that was a lot like that. Super athletic guy, and I think that it could end up being a mistake for them because Aiden Hutchinson is super safe, right? Like he has checked all those boxes and everything else. But Travon Walker, I mean, he's starting now to be mocked at the 101. There's starting to be a lot of hype around this could actually happen. Could also be that the Jaguars are trying to trade out of that pick. There's also been some of that. But right now, I mean, he is second, in terms of betting to be the number 1 overall pick. And right now, his over/under is 3.5. So it is looking very likely that he is going to be a top 3 pick.
Yeah, Hutchinson is chalk, right? I feel like just chalk. That's the safest play for them. Walker, we're hearing a lot of noise about that. I wouldn't be surprised if they went offensive tackle. Evan Neal and Ekwonu, there you go, Robbie. One of those guys. We have Doug Peterson there, and he wants an offensive tackle. I think he holds a lot more sway than he did in Philly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go offensive tackle. I would not be shocked if they did not take Aiden Hutchinson, whether it be Walker or offensive tackle, though. They shouldn't. Yeah. They should just take Hutchinson and move on, but that's,
Right. Yeah, Joe in the comments, I agree with what he's saying. Like, I don't evaluate defensive player, but just the idea of picking a player just based on just athleticism with less production seems inefficient to me. Like, it's not like Aiden Hutchinson's unathletic. He had a 9.88 relative athletic score versus Walker's 9.99. So what? Marginal difference in athleticism, whereas one has a lot better production. That's an easy choice for me.
Yeah, it seems surprising, but I think it's all. But with Trent Baalke, I don't know what to expect from that guy. I mean, that's what he does. I mean, so
yeah.
To me, I think the smart move for the Jags would be to either take an offensive tackle to protect your franchise quarterback.
Weird, right?
Yeah, to solidify that, and they have used some heavy, there's some heavy draft capital on edge with Josh Allen. And I cannot, the name slipped my mind, but anyways, yeah, but crazier things have happened. And like I said, I mean, this was a guy January that you were probably looking at best a late first round, if not a second round pick, but he has just skyrocketed up.
Yeah,
I think it was in Peter King's article this week. He was talking to a bunch of scouts and specifically about Travon Walker and just how he's risen and how much of a fast riser he's been, where it's been like, okay, he's being mocked at the end of the first, and then I'm seeing the Eagles get him because they had 3 first round picks in the middle of the first, and they're coming up with him all the time. And the next thing you know, a couple of weeks go by and he's in the 101 mix. So I don't ever want to take a player like that. Give me, Aiden Hutchinson. Give me some safety. I do not want to bust at 101. I understand the upside play, but at the same time, that upside play can lose you your job. So I don't think they're going to go Walker. They should not go Walker.
And I would agree. I think if you're going to go edge, you go Aiden Hutchinson, who I think is much more of a sure thing. But I don't know. I mean, this is starting to be a real thing here. Like, I think the best comp for Travon Walker right now is Danielle Hunter. But because Danielle Hunter was a very similar, didn't have any really production coming out, was an athletic freak, right? But
what did he go, 14 or so?
Was a third round pick.
What?
Yeah, Danielle Hunter was a third round pick.
Who the hell am I thinking? Wow.
And we're talking about this guy going 101. So I don't know. This could be a very Jags type move where they go Trayvon Walker, and we end up looking back at what a mistake it was. But I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, the hype is getting real here. And like I said, it very well could be possible if they're trying just to get out of this pick, especially if they like Trayvon Walker and they think they can maybe get him a few picks later. And collecting more picks could be a way to go, especially if a team if they do like Trayvon Walker more than Aiden Hutchinson, and then you trade out of that pick and let somebody come up and get him. I think that's also because they're a team that needs a lot of work. They're not a Trayvon Walker away from being a real contender, right? And so I think them collecting as many picks as they possibly can would be the smart move.
It just feels like Dante Fowler all over again.
Yep. There's a name. All right. Well, that was good chatter on Trayvon Walker, who is not the quote unquote consensus in most of these mocks, right? It is the guy that I'm taking at the 102. And Kev, I did you dirty. I even pulled up the sound here. Just missed it on yours, but here, got it for the 102 here. Aiden Hutchinson staying, I should say, in Michigan, going to the Detroit Lions. You didn't take him at the 101 here, first overall, so I think it makes sense for him to go here. I think safe is an understatement, right? Like, he's absolutely a beast power-wise. He can bend, get the edge, great leadership, right? And I just think he's a slam dunk pick. So if he doesn't go 101, he's probably going 102. The only reason you could see them maybe going a different direction is if they do look at Malik Willis, which has been kind of the rumor with some of these mock drafts. I don't think they pull the trigger that early, especially because they have pick 32 and 34. So if they want to work something, jump up for somebody who falls, they can still do that. But we got to remember, Jared Goff is still going to be there under contract for this year. They have plenty of other holes to fill, as we said with the Jaguars. That's why Jaguars and Lions are picking here at 1 and 2. Tons of holes to fill. So I think you take this player that you know is going to be successful for a long time, and so that's why I'm going Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, I don't think we really got to talk much about that one. That's an easy pick.
Good pick. Do we have any type of board to share the screen of?
Board, I don't know. Let's do a running ticker here. Once we get a couple people, I'll do that across, and then I will look at a board here while Tom does pick number 3.
Yeah, you can pull up the Draft Network or PFF, and they got something where you can just pick there. Kind of cool.
Right.
All right. Well, I have pick 3, Houston. I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end, Oregon there. Houston, I'm kind of lost. I don't know. They can go anywhere. I mean, they can go Thibodeau, they can go Sauce, they can go offensive tackle with Neal Ekwonu. So I'm not really sure where they're going to go, but I'm taking the upside there with Thibodeau. I think he's another guy where I think he should be in the 101 mix. If you're going to go pure upside like Trayvon Walker. So I would take Thibodeau over Walker personally. So that's where I'm going with that 3 pick for Houston. Factor in that they have Lovie Smith. I think it's a good pick for him.
Yeah, I think I think if you were to remove because the biggest problem with Thibodeau is he doesn't work hard and all the stuff that we've heard about him and stuff like that. I think he really should be the slam dunk 101 here, but he won't be. He's not, and there's been a lot of rumors that he could fall further than what people think because people aren't in love with all the stuff that we've heard about, his work ethic and taking plays off and all this other stuff and not really giving it all. And, NFL teams are going to care about that more than they should. Obviously, we weren't there. We don't know, and that's why we've seen him fall because earlier, especially probably beginning of last year or beginning of the college football season last year, Thibodeau was thought to be the kind of the guy, and all this stuff started coming out with him, and so it's going to be interesting to see really where he ends up going because it's possible he could fall further than this because you could see Houston go a different direction, where he's or Detroit for that matter. It's even possible Detroit could take Malik Willis at 2, and then you have Houston, who also I think could go a number of different directions. Offensive line, I think they would also be very smart to just move off this pick, move back a little bit more, continue collecting assets because they have completely gutted that team. I mean, they really have Brandon Cooks and Davis Mills. And I think it would be absolutely ridiculous for them to even think about taking a quarterback because of the fact that they are so far away. I think they just continue to add pieces. And I think it'd be a smarter decision if they did go offensive line here, because then they still have Laramie Tunsil, then you would have Tunsil and, Evan Neal. If that's who they decided to go with, kind of really fortify your offensive line. And then, then next year, I think, which they're going to be terrible again, then with a much, much better class next year of quarterback coming out, then you grab your quarterback next year.
Yeah. I feel like Thibodeau falling is just the overthinking that we see every year in the draft.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And Thibodeau falling too, like Vegas has been kind of all over with him. He was at 3.5. Mm-hmm. Then he dropped down to 7.5. I think he got down to 8.5, and I believe now he's back up to 5.5. Which,
damn,
I mean he's been all over the place. So if you got him at 7.5, bravo. But he's one of those guys where you're talking about, okay, this is when teams are going to start trading up, like giving up future first to move up from the teens. Like the Eagles, that's a dude they might move up for. I don't see him getting past the Giants though. With 7 and 5, I really don't. I think that 7 number is on the
Falcons. That'd be more fun. In my humble opinion,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he falls that far, and I think some team would.
I've seen people talk about him falling out of top 10. Not like it's likely,
I can't see
people saying it's possible.
I think it could be possible if teams are really that concerned with some of that stuff. I mean, investing that kind of draft capital. It's kind of interesting because, I mean, a lot of these teams are in the first. I mean, they have so many different directions they could go. I mean, I think the Giants would be stupid to pass on him there because I think the Giants desperately need a pass rusher. Yeah, twice. So it really would be kind of ridiculous for him to fall past them. But I think it would be less shocking he falls out of the top 5, but I would be more shocked if he fell out of the top 10 just because of his raw upside.
I'm with that.
Right. So we go 3 edge rushers off the top 1, 2, 3. We're going to pick number 4 with Kev Steele. Before we get to your pick, I want to do some shout outs here. We got Justin, Ronald rocking with us. Thanks, guys. If you have thoughts on these picks, let us know. Throw them in the comments. We want to be interacting with you all here throughout the night. We're going all 32 picks here, and Kev is up with the 104. Who do you got?
Well, I thought I really went back and forth on actually going offensive lineman here, but I did not, and I decided to go with a defensive player. I felt like their offensive line is good enough. Mekhi Becton, they added Elijah Vera Tucker last year in the draft. They had George Fant at right tackle, but I thought about it with Evan Neal and maybe you possibly move him to guard for right now or, right tackle and then, decide from there. But so I ended up going with, the best corner in this class, and that's Sauce Gardner, the guy that never allowed a touchdown his entire career, which is just absurd to think about. With him, 6'3", 195, has that size to be able to line up on the outside, next to an X or Y wide receiver. And so he is just the total package here, athletic as well, almost ran a 4.3 too as well. But I just felt like it was a pretty easy pick here. They have 2 picks in the top 10. So, if not going offensive line, I think solidifying that secondary they have, who is pretty rough right now with DJ Reed and Michael Carter, in that secondary, adding somebody like that, I think could really help them. And so, it had one of the 3 edge fell here. I think it's possible, even if Trayvon Walker doesn't go overall, I think this could be a real landing spot for him as well, is the Jets. But I decided to go with a corner here, and then is Sauce Gardner, who is going to be an absolute freak.
Yeah, I love that pick because when we were talking about this, it's what have the Jets been horrendous at, and they do have a lot of holes. Yeah, everything, coaching, all of it. But they can't stop anybody. Who's been their corners the last couple of years? It's been Bryce Hall and Buster Skrine. I don't know. It's been nobody's, right? So they've needed this position for a long time. I definitely think this is in the cards. I didn't mention at the top of the show, we did this last year, and we got the first 2 picks right. Then it took a while. We didn't get the next pick right until I think Christian Darrisaw to the Vikings. It wasn't at 14 because of some things. And then we got one other pick right. 18 maybe to Miami, but we only got 4 right this year, so we're looking to get some more right here in 2022. And I think this is a pick that we will get right. Sauce Gardner to the Jets makes sense because they've had horrendous corners for so long. They need to get a guy that can stop the pass, and I think they will get that with Gardner.
The only thing I could see is if they think Sauce and Stingley are similar, but one of the wide receivers in Wilson or London are just head and shoulders above like the other one, and there's a teardrop there. I could see them flipping, but I really think they go CB wide receiver in some order, or at 10 I could see them trading down again if their guy isn't there and just getting more picks. But yeah. That Sauce pick, I feel like that's chalk.
That's good. I like that. Be amazing to see London go at 4. That would be terrific because then
train wreck.
You're looking at a similar prospect level to a lot of good receivers. Like,
I love this, Akash. Big applesauce. That's going to be the new thing if he goes there. That's going to be perfect. Yeah. All right. Walito, I did miss you. I apologize. I'm taking over the.
He did it on purpose. The private chat. He said, "I'm not going to mention Walito."
Hey, I'm jumping into the host chair. Cody, he's got baby duty. He's got a lot of stuff going on with the house. He's still figuring out how to get that dishwasher from still overflowing. So he's not here. I'm stepping in. We're going to have some mistakes along the way, but we are up at the 105. And this one I went back and forth on a little bit because we talked about offensive tackle before at the 101. I don't think the Jags are going to do it. They re-signed Cam Robinson. They have Walker Little, who they drafted last year in the early second, if I remember correctly. So I think we're going to get the first offensive tackle right around here. But is it Evan Neal? Is it Icky? Like who's it going to be? And I took Evan Neal. And honestly, it just kind of came down to his overall strength and his overall prowess, right? Like he's a guy that just dominates people from the get-go. You worry about the pass protection? Nope, not with him. He's going to anchor and set. Are you worried about the run game? Nope, he's a mauler. He's going to drive individuals in the run game. So he's versatile and he can play either side, right? Because when we look at the Giants, they drafted a tackle. Name's escaping me right now. But they drafted a tackle a couple, either last draft or 2 drafts ago.
Andrew Thomas, Georgia.
Andrew Thomas, yeah. And he's had some struggles, right? But Evan Neal can fit in wherever you want. You want him to take over left tackle, kick Thomas to right tackle, he can do that. If you want him to play right tackle, he can also do that. He's got the versatility that I think that not all of these other tackles have, where he can play both sides and be successful for the Giants. And that's definitely what they need as they're trying to build success around this maybe quote unquote low end last year for Daniel Jones. He has to not get a lot of pressure. He can't keep turning the ball over with these strip sacks. You're going to need offensive tackles to help him with that. So Evan Neal is the pick here at 105.
Yeah, and that's a big deal if you can swing from left tackle to right tackle. I'm going to go back to the Eagles. Andre Dillard attempted to play right tackle for a game and got pulled. He was so bad because he basically thought it was like switch hitting, you know what I mean? And then you have another guy like Lane Johnson who can play left and right seamlessly. And that's a big deal. So that's a lot of added value there where if you have a guy who can only slot in at left tackle, if you have, a starter get injured, the next thing you know, you have to slide somebody over, and now there's 2 different positions going. So that's a big thing. And I think, the difference between, Icky and Neal, I think Neal is a little bit smoother if he has to slide from left to right. But, I like Ikwanu a lot. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, Tom, 106. This is an interesting pick because they obviously, this is Carolina. They brought in a lot of quarterbacks for their top 30 visits, but they also have a lot of needs. If we look at the offensive line, we're talking about these tackles. They have had a rotation at left tackle for as long as I can remember. Who did you go with here at the 106?
Yeah, so this is where we're going to find out, if they're trading for Baker Mayfield. Because if they go offensive tackle here, that's what's going on. There's already something in the works. But, I mean, you hear Kenny Pickett, you hear Baker Mayfield. I think they're going to go Malik Willis here.
Ooh.
He's the most talented quarterback in the class, most tools. If you take Kenny Pickett and he goes out there against Sam Darnold during practice, is Pickett really going to look better? I mean, I heard that from somewhere where you're just sitting there and they're both out there and they're throwing. You're like, well, they're pretty much is there that much of a difference in practice? I don't know. When Willis goes out there, you're going to see different tools where, the legs, you're going to have different plays in there for him. His arm, he's got an absolute cannon. He's Jalen Hurts with a cannon. He just has to be more accurate. You know what I mean? I think the other thing that comes into play is Matt Rule saving his job. I think that upside there where he's going to be running the ball, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Where he can go out there and he can design an offense around Willis where he's going to minimize some of his mistakes. You have Christian McCaffrey out there, and they turn into a running team, kind of like the Eagles did last year with Jalen Hurts, except Malik Willis actually has, a good arm.
Yeah.
So they could go the Mayfield route. I could see them trying to move back here as well, recoup some of those picks from the Sam Darnold trade last year, which was horrible apparently. But yeah, I think they're going to go Willis here, and then I don't think we see a quarterback for a hot minute.
I'm not the biggest Kenny Pickett fan, but to compare him to Sam Darnold just feels disrespectful, man.
No, so if you watch them both in practice, is there going to be a huge difference? And that's not something that I'm saying. That's something
probably because Sam Darnold
somebody else
really
brought
bad.
in.
It's just it's a thing of the upside. I get it. I get having Malik over Pickett. I think I do too. I don't have an NFL draft take, but that's fine. But I'm just saying that's kind of disrespectful to Pickett comparing him to Darnold.
It was, and it wasn't me who did it. It was somebody. I think that may have been in
some type of article.
It definitely wasn't an article, and that was like a scout that said
that's tough.
Tom,
well, scouts have also been high on Sam Darnold for the last 4 years, and it hasn't worked for them. So,
Tom, you need to cite your slanderous sources, okay?
That's right.
I believe
people.
I'm shooting the messenger here. I'm sorry.
Listen, I'm sorry, Kenny Pickett, that someone compared you to Sam Darnold in practice.
I think Sam Darnold might be better than he is. Like I don't like. I don't think it's that
now
hot,
we can shoot the messenger,
right? I think it's possible. Like this, like we have to hype up this class because it's all we have to talk about. Like this quarterback class is absolute trash. Like as a whole, it's not good, right? The only saving grace for like someone like Malik Willis is his rushing upside. We've seen it like from a fantasy perspective, like how that can translate over and how that can still make him, a viable starter, right? But he is still super raw, right? Like he may never work out. And like I think going six is I get it, but like Kenny Pickett has a range of 6th to 2nd round. Like it is entirely possible for any one of these guys to completely slip and be much further down than what anybody thinks. I think for most teams, I think it would be incredibly smart to not take a quarterback here in this class because I don't think any of these guys are all that particularly good. I think Matt Corral might end up being maybe the best option, but he is wide ranging. There's talk that Carolina loves Matt Corral, and it's possible that could be who they go with and not Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, has been, talked about to Pittsburgh because he's from Pitt and everything else, whatever. But I just don't think any of these guys are really all that good. Like, right? If any of these guys were in last year's class, they were a 2nd or 3rd round pick. They're not a 1st round pick. They're not going ahead of any one of these guys that were picked last year. And that's the problem is with this. And so like, if I'm in an NFL team, I damn sure ain't taking a quarterback in the top 10. Any one of these guys. If you want to take a shot on one later, get that 5th year option, take a shot on one of them, fine. But none of them deserve to really be thought of as like any of these guys are going to be elite level prospects. Sure, there could be. I'm sure there's going to be somebody that comes from this class that ends up being good, but I don't know who it is. I think it could be any one of them, and I think that's the problem with this class.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm going back and forth on because we can have an idea that they're not as good based on everything we see in college from metrics to film. But also what you said was right about how there's a solid chance if you're just playing the numbers that one of them is going to be good. So taking that shot eventually is probably a good decision in the late 1st because having a good quarterback is invaluable.
No, for sure. And I don't mind.
We're pretty bad at evaluating quarterbacks. So even if we say that all these prospects, then we could easily be wrong. Just like
for sure.
That class last year didn't look very good.
I am old enough to remember the absolute vitriol hate for Josh Allen whenever he was coming out. There was very few people that liked Josh Allen. Everybody hated Josh Allen. Just laughed at the Bills for taking Josh Allen.
Which is all fair. You know what I mean?
Because he wasn't as good.
But there was still a lot of people that loved Sam Darnold when he came out, loved Josh Rosen when he came out. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks that come out that a lot of people liked, right? And but you're right. We are not good at evaluating quarterbacks, and I will admit that. For sure. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that none of these guys are going to be any good, but, like, it's just, especially if I'm a team that I don't feel like that I'm in contention this year, I damn sure I'm staying away from a quarterback. Wait till next year, get back at it next year, and get your quarterback next year.
Joe, what are you doing, Joe?
Joe's going in.
For as mediocre as this entire quarterback class is, Davis Mills is equally mediocre or worse.
Yeah. We don't have to get into Davis Mills. I do like him thrown in the shade. That's what we want. We want to hear the comments, no matter how hot they are. Here's one thing, because I like this conversation, and what I think is, it's not just how talented the person is. It's also, I think quarterback more than any other position is really, who do you land with, and who's your offensive coordinator, who's your quarterback's coach, and how do you develop, right? Because we look at these guys and you say, Josh Allen, he had like a 52% completion percentage at Wyoming, right? And you're like, man, how is this guy going to translate? Yeah, he's got some athleticism, he can run, but he's got a huge arm and he can't work through progressions. He does not have the accuracy. We got to fix something with him, right? Mm-hmm. And we see success. On the flip side, I already forgot, but you mentioned Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. It's like Sam Darnold was a gunslinger, turned the ball over a lot, but had a really great tape at USC. UCLA, Josh Rosen was in a really good system. But it's like, I also think it's partly how you're developed, especially at this position, because there's so many things coming at you. A lot of these guys started from day one. I think everybody that we're talking about, right? Maybe not Josh Allen. I think he sat behind somebody for a little bit there in Buffalo, but
I think it was a couple of weeks. It was like a week or two, and then he started.
Right. So Tyrod, and then like 7. He played like 7 weeks.
One of Tyrod's many, like, hey, I'll start 4 games until they kick me out for the rookie.
No,
right?
it wasn't. No, it wasn't Tyrod, was it?
Somebody.
It's magic.
Because Tyrod was in Cleveland that year, so it wasn't
getting supplanted by a different rookie, probably. But my point is that it's not always, hey, we're bad at evaluating. It's, I think with this position more than any other position, we have to look at the fit and how they marinate together, right? Because you can develop quarterbacks that maybe don't have the best tape or the best stats, and their fit is just better, or they get trained better. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's still hard for us to figure out. But that's why we have the Josh Allens that take this massive leap, and he should be the exception, not the rule. And that's why we have more successful quarterbacks go earlier that do bust a little bit more than we'd like to see. So I know we've spent a lot of time on this topic, but this is our first fantasy relevant player off with Malik Willis at 6. Real quick, guys, if he lands here at 6, he's probably starting right away, I would guess. They do have Sam Darnold. I think Cam's gone. Nobody else is really competing there. What do you guys think from a let's talk both redraft and dynasty, because we have a little bit of both here. What do we think for his outlook if he lands there with DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, etc.?
So the rushing yardage is going to save him there, probably. Right. But you go back to last year's draft, and the most comparable quarterback prospect would be who? Trey Lance, right? He went 3, and everybody said, oh, he's got a city year because he's so raw. That's essentially Malik Willis, except he's more raw than Trey Lance probably.
Yeah, Lance was a lot better in college.
Right. So that's something that you have to take into consideration, and they were smart, and they sat him last year because they could. So
Panthers don't have a Jimmy G. They could trade for a Jimmy G, but they don't right now.
Right. But the problem is now you have a coach who's playing for his job. So you're going to have pressure.
He will not be the head coach of the Panthers after this year.
He's gone. He's just
right.
bad.
But so now you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to win? I can't trot Sam Darnold out there. So Malik Willis is now starting, which is the situation that we're in. So he's obviously going to be the QB1.
Someone? I don't know. Trade for someone. I don't know.
What are you going to do? Are you going to give up 2023 picks?
And that's where it comes in with Baker, but I don't think they go that route again because they just had that experiment with Sam Darnold, right? Like that's why everyone's been hyping. Okay, Baker to Carolina. they literally just did this experiment, and you can have your argument. You like Baker more than Sam Darnold. That's fine. But it's like, he's not your long-term quarterback, most likely, right? So that's why I like that we picked Willis here, because it really makes you think, because he's way more raw than Pickett is, right? That's why I think a lot of these drafts have Pickett going there, more NFL ready. He doesn't have as high of a ceiling, but he has the connection to Matt Rule. He can maybe quote unquote, save Matt Rule because he is more NFL ready. That's the interesting conversation. But I like how we didn't go that route, because we get this conversation of who do they start week 1?
Yeah, it's a clusterfuck. Yeah, I will say for Dynasty, Malik Willis at 6 is terrific, because higher draft capital is better signal that they could be good at the game. I know like a lot of people don't like Willis as a NFL quarterback on it, saying that he's raw, and that he would be a second rounder and then the rest, which I don't think is egregious. But when you go 6th overall, you're gonna have good job security. It's a better indication that you're good at the game, and when he's rushing and playing, he'll get you some fantasy points. So just from a dynasty perspective, 6 is a really good spot for Willis. I would love to see him there. Like, a lot of people love Breece Hall and have him as the clear 101. I have Malik also in that tier. It's like a tier of 1 and 2 for me.
And I think he would definitely be in that 101 mix there, especially, year 1, you talk about it. If you think he's going to be starting, what do you get? Jalen Hurts numbers for the last 2 years?
Jalen Hurts with upside
Right.
That's
That's your downside?
Exactly.
Okay. Sign me up as a fantasy owner.
Exactly.
By the way,
Malik's top 3 rusher in college football over the last 10 years. Just Lamar and Hurts above him. And then out of all the relevant guys who were drafted in the first couple of rounds, there's no one else who's comparable.
And you have some weapons.
Yeah.
By the way, Josh Allen's rookie year, the starting quarterbacks were Nathan Peterman, Derek Anderson, and Matt Barkley. Those are the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Remember that was the Matt Barkley game not Matt Barkley, but Nathan Peterman when he started and threw all those interceptions
in a quarter.
It was fantastic. I remember that.
That was amazing.
Those were the quarterbacks that he had in front of him. Yeah.
That's
so.
great.
I guess was Fitz the following year then?
No, Fitz was before that. Fitz was well before that. Yeah, it was Tyrod the year before that.
Was Fitz? Yeah, he was in Tampa, right? Or was he on the Jets?
I think he was in Tampa.
He's probably in Tampa.
Yeah.
Ripping the Eagles up on opening day. Never forget it. Deshaun Jackson, two
that was
long
the
touchdowns.
That was the Saints, right?
Huh?
That was the Saints, right?
No, that was Tampa and the Eagles. It was great. Eagles just got destroyed by the Saints.
Let's keep moving here.
Yeah.
We need to get to 107 here with Kev. I had the first New York Giants pick at 5, went offensive tackle, kind of solidified that for him. Kev, who did you go here with their second pick?
Here I decided to go edge, and I went with Jermaine Johnson, another guy that has really flown up draft boards, especially since the Senior Bowl, and he crushed it there through all that, through the practices and everything like that. So he is somebody that I feel like is definitely going to be a top, at least 10, 15 pick. But, the Giants taking him here at 7. It's another need that they definitely have, on that defensive line. Really was solid last year for Florida State, 14 sacks last year. I don't think that he's not somebody that necessarily wins with speed. Not that he was terrible, 4.58 40, but his size, 6'5", 260, great bend and everything else for him. And so I love this player and somebody that has really risen up, started at, kind of a low first round pick and has continued to rise up. And so I think this would be a great pick for the Giants. They don't really have, they drafted Kadarius Toney. They have a ton of weapons there. I hope now with, the new coaching staff they have with Brian Dable, got rid of Gettleman, who was one of the worst GMs we've ever seen. Maybe you kind of set this team up right. Good. And so, yeah.
Great.
So Jermaine Johnson, here's the pick.
And he reminds me a lot of like Brandon Graham, where he's going to be like solid, maybe not spectacular, but you're probably going to get like 8 to 10 sacks a year from him. He's going to be fantastic against a run, and you're never going to have to worry about him. And if this happens, like the Giants are just going like Evan Neal, Jermaine Johnson, it's safe. They're not getting busts from either one of these players, and it's a fantastic
and I think it gives them one more year to evaluate what we already probably know, and that Daniel Jones isn't that great, and they can move on from here.
Hey, get that disrespect out of your mouth, man. Come on.
Listen, I've tried to hold on to the Daniel Jones.
I have no idea what to think about him because I was so out on him, and then my friend was talking to me, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm buying back in. But I think I'm just buying back in for fantasy because he rushes good.
Dude, why? Was that yesterday? What did he say? Was that yesterday you were talking to him? That was 420 yesterday. Your boy was high out of his damn mind.
I made a video on it where he had like a really good clean PFF passing grade in 2019, which was good amongst.
I remember my first beer
amongst second-year players, and it wasn't as good last year. But he was top 12 as a rookie in points per game, which was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Huh.
No,
Okay,
yeah, like
so
that's. I had a moment last year where I was excited for Daniel Jones, right? Because he does have that rushing upside, like he provides that for you and stuff like that. But
for fantasy, is interesting. I got him like the 13th round and
hopefully, the Brian Dable quarterback whisper, that's he made Josh Allen.
He turned Josh Allen good. We still have hope. It's all good.
So
I think I accidentally fell bass backwards into a Tony Daniel Jones stack. I didn't mean to, but I did. And so we're just hoping for Dable to work some magic there.
All right, Akash, how about we get to your team, the Atlanta Falcons? What do you think?
I love it.
Let's do that.
Hopefully, I don't hate the pick too much.
Okay, Akash, a lot of pressure here.
I hated it.
Hey, hold up.
Maybe I'll hate it too.
Let's do a quick recap for those listening when we put this out to pod. So
we got the ticker going.
We have the ticker going. We're going to go Trevon Walker, number 1 to the Jaguars, Aiden Hutchinson to Detroit at number 2, Kevon Thibodeau to Houston, Sauce Gardner to the New York Jets at 4, Evan Neal at 5, Malik Willis 6 to Carolina, 7, Jermaine Johnson to the Giants. Akash, if this was your pick with the guys off the board, who would you go at number 8? And then I'll tell you who I did take for this mock.
Shit. I don't know any defensive players very well. Is Derrick Stingley good? I can't tell.
So you wouldn't go offense here. You wouldn't go wide receiver.
My brain's wired for fantasy, so I would just I'm gravitating towards Drake London because wide receiver, and I like Drake London, and I just know fantasy players. Yeah. But is Stingley better? I don't know. I think also who else is on? I have a PFF board.
Well, the thing about Atlanta is they have a lot of needs.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we do, definitely. Ekwonu could be solid. Drake London, Stingley, Cross.
You guys have gone offensive line so much in the first round. So much in the first round, and they don't hit. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
They're good when they go wide receiver in the first round, though.
That's right. Falcons haven't missed on an offensive skill position in the first round since 2002.
So maybe we stick with that offensive production. Maybe we give them a little wide receiver out of Ohio State.
No,
Garrett Wilson.
No,
he's going here.
Wide receiver 1 in the class.
Not correct, but
indisputable.
Hold on, Tom. You'll get your chance here. So Garrett Wilson is not my wide receiver 1, but I did this draft as a predictive draft because I think with that wide receiver room that we see without Calvin Ridley right now, it is in shambles, right? We have Zacchaeus as wide receiver 1. Maybe they move Pitts to wide receiver half the time. I don't know what's going to happen.
Auden Tate,
right? They need somebody. And Garrett Wilson is a guy.
Edamame they have out there too.
Right. Garrett Wilson is a guy that can play outside. He can play inside. He's a complete wide receiver that gives them good versatility to use however they want, right? They're going to utilize Patterson. They're going to utilize Pitts in a lot of different ways. They're going to need somebody who is just a versatile guy who's ready to win now. And that's what you get in Garrett Wilson. So that's why I mocked Garrett Wilson to him. It's a position of need that they need badly. And it's a guy that can really play a lot of different wide receiver spots here, whether that's flanker, whether that's the X, whether that's the slot. He can kind of do it all, and he's really tough to tackle in the open field, wins with quick routes. So that's my guy.
I don't want to win now. I want to win after we get Bryce Young.
Hey, he doesn't get you a lot of wins. He just catches you up a little bit closer in the fourth quarter, right? Like he's helping the garbage time fantasy points.
Did you just say that you like Drake London more because he's not as good as Garrett Wilson and he won't win games as much? Is that what just happened?
No, I like him more because he's a better player.
Boom.
That's wrong.
Let's go.
Yeah, he is.
I don't understand. There's in no world.
If I can choose a guy who produced more in college over a guy who produced less in college, and I'll simply make that decision every time. If I can get a guy who's 6'4", 210 over Garrett Wilson, I don't know. What is he?
Yeah, I mean,
5'10", 180 something. I'll take that upside.
I tend to go with those guys who know how to run routes better and have better.
I don't care how he runs routes. I don't know how he runs routes. I haven't watched a single second of him. I just know he wins and he produces.
We should probably watch some tape then.
I don't know. Go ahead, I don't know how to watch tape. I'm not good at it. I know what I know, and that's production is king, and he produces, and that's just what I'm rocking with.
Well, Garrett Wilson produced since he was a freshman.
Yeah,
so
go ahead. They're both productive. It's just one's been more productive.
I wouldn't say
not really.
He never had. I mean, there's this debate here with this that because none of them outside of what's his name Jackson Smith really just blew up, right? Every year it was 900, 1,000 yards, and yes, you could say they cannibalize each other some, but
1,100.
To be able to see that I think is a little alarming. Some of the other metrics there aren't great for Garrett Wilson either. But
Wilson's last year yards per team pass attempt took a decline, which happened. It's a bit of a red flag.
I honestly don't know which one's better, Garrett Wilson or Olave.
I do.
So.
I'm with you there, Tom. Don't worry.
Are you with Joe here in the comments? Joe says he doesn't like this pick with Atlanta rebuilding. He doesn't want to go wide receiver, but he also didn't like the Pitts pick last year at 4.
Joe, I hear you. Sometimes picking a tight end at 4, it's positional value, etc. But consider this: big man, run fast, catch ball.
And that's what
Simple
we're doing again. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's all right. We ball.
Scales and tape measures are in analytics. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's all good. I don't know exactly what we're gonna do here. There's a lot of options. I would just prefer to trade down because compiling assets is never a bad option.
So it's great because so we've mentioned this a few different times, but who's gonna want to trade up? And that's kind of the problem because it's so deep, right? So in this range, I think you have Walker, Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Sauce. I think that's a tier. And you can even put Sauce and then knock Thibodeau down. And then you have this other tier of Thibodeau, Neal, Johnson, Willis if you want a quarterback, Ekwonu. But it's such a big tier after you get past that one where I don't know where people are going to want to jump up. And that's the problem with trading up and trading down here, unless you have value with guys falling. And we have trades in the draft, so you're going to see a trade coming up shortly. Not quite yet, but you will see one.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. I did a mock draft the other day. Luke Sawhook.
Yep.
He had 32 people come on. Some people dipped, so I got to control multiple teams. But I controlled the Falcons, and I made a trade. You know what I traded for? Traded the 8th overall pick for Kyler Murray.
That's
how much
just the
no scenario that would ever actually happen. It would take so much more to get.
I mean, congratulations,
right?
Yeah, congratulations. It's fun. It's so much fun to think about. But
I did that, and then the guy used that same pick to pick Pickett. So.
Oh my god!
All right, so
come on. It's a bit of a tough decision. Who would you rather have? Pickett,
this is a hometown league.
Pickett, who I'm told is Sam Darnold Jr., or Kyler Murray.
Allegedly.
Tom, let's go to your Seattle pick.
Pick up the pace.
Yeah, let's pick up the pace a little bit.
48 minutes. We're only 9 picks through.
All right, Tom.
All right, I'm going Seattle. I'm going Icky here. Ekwonu, I think, is the pick. I wanted to take somebody whose name was easy to say. There we go, Robbie. I know you love it. Say his name correctly.
Ekwonu?
The first name too.
Wouldn't it be so Seattle for them to actually draft a wide receiver, an offensive lineman in the first round, especially in top 10 once they trade Russell Wilson?
Man. Just keep
once they trade what? Yeah.
Once they trade Russell Wilson, they never surrounded him with an offensive line ever. Right. And then
that's exactly where the need is.
Let's be honest. This is probably going to be like a DB or something like that. They're probably not going to draft an offensive lineman.
They're going to fuck it up. I'm using common sense. So I apologize to everybody.
I agree with the pick. But there's other things that they could
It's a good pick, and that's where you went wrong.
Yeah. Let's just keep it moving. Let's just go to 10.
Yeah,
there's a lot more to put
Drake
in.
London.
All right, Kev, go ahead. Take the wide receiver 3 or 4 in this class.
Nope. So I was controlling the New York Jets, and I felt like hey, they got Elijah Moore, but they were really missing out on that big physical wide receiver. They had Denzel Mims, but obviously that didn't happen, and that's not a thing anymore, and that's never going to happen. So I went ahead and went with Drake London. I felt like this was a good fit for the offense, surrounding Zach Wilson with even more talent here. Could have went defense again, could have went offensive lineman, but I felt like going wide receiver here. They have clearly been in the wide receiver market. They've been attached to Deebo Samuel. They tried to get Tyreek Hill, so clearly they're looking to add more talent here. It wouldn't shock me if Deebo Samuel were to be traded, if the Jets were to be the team that would do so. But with that not obviously I don't. We weren't going to do trades for like that. So I went ahead and went with Drake London here. I felt like this was a really good fit for, the way that their team is currently constructed. And so I love Drake London. I mean, what he did this past year at only 8 games, absolutely ridiculous. And, I think the ceiling's very high for him. There's been a lot of comps for Mike Williams with him. But I think Drake London is going to be an absolute stud. And so, with him here.
Mike Evans, not Mike Williams. Let's just make that quick little adjustment.
Somewhere between Michael Thomas and Mike Evans. It's all good.
Did I say Mike Williams?
You said Mike Williams. I just wanted to be sure.
Okay, I didn't say Mike Evans.
I mean, it's not a bad.
There's a big difference. No, there's a little bit of a difference here, right? 7 straight 1,000 yards.
It's actually not that bad.
Mike Williams hasn't been a bad player. I mean, when he's been able to stay healthy, when he's been out on the field, I think, especially when they've added Justin Herbert.
7th overall capital, but he's a fine NFLer.
They actually have a lot in common as players, as far as not being able to stay on the field and being productive when they're on the field.
Mike Evans not staying on the field?
No, Williams.
Williams. I mean, Drake London has
Drake
one
London.
injury.
Yeah, Williams and Drake London.
Williams' injury was a break, so that's all right.
I'm saying
London,
they're productive when they're on the field. Yeah. Got me.
Well,
Williams had that bad.
He also broke out at a very young age, so I mean, there's lots like there too. So
yeah. I think what stands out for me with Drake London, and I think Akash pointed to this earlier when we were having the Wilson London debate, is 8 games this last year, 88 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. I mean, he was on track to absolutely be the wide receiver, the top wide receiver for college football before he had the injury. And so I think some people are a little bit worried he didn't run, obviously at the combine. Pro day, I don't think he ran either at the pro day. He doesn't want to have, if that's a 4.6 or 4.55, whatever he has at his size. He doesn't want that the same thing that's happened with Treylon Burks to happen with him. And I think that's smart. And I don't think we need to worry about that because T. Higgins did the same thing. He said, I'm not going to do this. And people dropped him down, and look, T. Higgins is just fine. So Drake London is a top 2 wide receiver for me. I really love his big playability, right? We talk about a big target in the end zone, can catch touchdowns for your fantasy teams. He lands here with the Jets, which I think we should have a conversation on how that happens because I don't love any wide receiver initially that goes to the Jets, but I've learned with A.J. Brown that I'm not going to judge somebody by their landing spot in totality if we're talking dynasty, right? Because I've made that mistake with A.J. Brown. I'm not going to make it again where it doesn't look great right away, but let's let the cards play out. Let's let Zach Wilson, which could be another conversation, let's let him grow. He now has 2 great options. Let's let that offensive line, that younger offensive line develop with Becton, Elijah Vera Tucker that Kevin alluded to earlier. I think this Jets team is on the rise, and I'm getting a little bit excited about them. I just think they're maybe one more year away. So be patient with London if this comes to be. But I do think this will be a great pick in Dynasty. Maybe not redraft, maybe not year 1, but I do think in Dynasty, I really, really like Drake London here.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He'll have 2 good options there. We have an idea that they're both good at the game. Good players are kind of like a rising tide that lifts all boats. So it's not that it's like, helmet scouting, the Jets are bad. But if you have Wilson, who was a good prospect, and Elijah Moore, who's a good prospect, had a good rookie season, Drake London, who's a good prospect, then you could be looking at a real sleeper offense, honestly. Like 2 years ago, everyone was hating on the Bengals for being really bad, and now they're good because they added a bunch of good players.
They picked fifth overall, right? They picked 5th overall for Jamar Chase. All of a sudden, they're in the Super Bowl, picking at 31 the next year. Hey, good real quick, Tosh, I love that saying. Say that again about the Tides. That was a great saying.
Good players are a rising tide that lifts all boats.
Write that one down, folks. I love that saying.
And I think at least year one, people would look at this like a little bit of a crowded situation where Corey Davis is there, Elijah Moore.
Like they
brought Braxton Berrios back, but Corey Davis is likely gone after this year. They can get out of his contract, only a $600,000 dead cap hit next year, and save almost $11 million against the cap for next year. So he is 100% out the door after this year, at least a restructure.
If they draft someone like this.
Gone. And so they'll just cut him. And so I think, again, maybe year one, he doesn't get the production we're necessarily looking for. But I think long term, I think that Drake London could be an excellent spot here. And again, I do like what the Jets have done. The Jets' offensive line actually last year was really good. Was much better than what people gave it credit for. And so, I just don't think it's absolute need for them to go offensive line. Yes, defense still is a problem, but I think they address that there. They have more picks to go later. And so, I think that's why Drake London makes some sense here. And, like I said, year one may not look as great, but it's going to be very quick, and he will be very well could be the alpha or, at least the 1-2 with him and Elijah Moore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be a fun offense for sure.
And then the next pick, so there was there was two teams trying to trade up into this spot at pick 11. I offered by far the best pick, the best package.
Wrong.
But somehow Philly went there. But I was okay,
Kevin,
because it ended up actually working out for me. We moved up
Jameson Williams.
and went. Well, go ahead and tell them what the pick was.
Listen,
Kev,
Kev,
go ahead and announce it.
Robbie liked my package better. Okay,
he did. He liked your package better.
That's all there is.
There was a trade. What was the trade?
Yeah, so we have a trade. The Eagles traded 18, not 15, 51, and a 2023 fourth to Washington for 11 and a 2023 sixth.
Say again?
This was, go ahead.
Say it again. I found put it in the PFF thing.
18, 51, so that's their second, and a 2023 fourth for 11 and a 2023 sixth. So basically the Eagles give up their second this year to move up. The fourth and the sixth are kind of a wash. All right, so it was tough to give up because the second round is really a sweet spot for a lot of players that I really like.
Yep.
But I kept 15 in play, and that's the reason I gave up the second as opposed to giving up 15 and a third, which is what I probably could have done as well. Those both match up, but 11 and 15, I felt like there was such a big teardrop there. I didn't want to do it. And as much as I wanted to go Jameson Williams here because they need a wide receiver, I went Derrick Stingley here.
Nice.
I love the tape from 2019. That entire team fell apart afterwards. I mean, I wonder if he kind of shut it down afterwards because he knew, he was a stud. He had that tape already. Listen, if you can go toe-to-toe with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in practice, like sign me up. I don't know what else to do. Like, give me that 100 times out of 100. He immediately reinvigorates that secondary, that entire defense. So I went Stingley there, kept the 15 pick, and it looks like my secondary is getting it's getting better. You know what I mean? We still have a need at safety, but it's getting better.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, no, that was a good trade. I think with Stingley, you've seen him kind of go all over the place, right? He has the pro day, or he has the combine. People kind of knock him a little bit for the quote unquote not being as athletic as they thought, so he falls a little bit. But he is definitely a top 10 pick. So if Philly needs this position, which I think they do, right? Their cornerbacks are a little bit older. They've been rotating at the second cornerback position. This is a really good trade up where you're not losing a ton. That second is kind of tough, but you're definitely getting, I think, a top 10, top 8 player in this draft. So Derrick Stingley goes here at 11. Tom, let's go right back to you here. Since you traded, you got back-to-back picks. You were controlling Minnesota for number 12. Who did you go here?
Right. And one more thing about that last trade, having that 15 pick factored into that trade like hugely, because if I don't know if I'm making that trade because I don't necessarily lose as much. So I have the Vikings here, and I'm going Trent McDuffie, cornerback of Washington. I wouldn't necessarily go this way. I think they were going to take Stingley. I think they might be stuck on cornerback here. They have that need. It's more glaring than anything else. I think they would prefer to trade down here in this scenario, but they didn't get a partner. So they're stuck with a solid quarter in McDuffie. I don't think he's going to be, spectacular, but I think he's going to be a good player. It just feels like a Vikings pick where they're going to have things on the board and they're going to disappoint people. And you know what? I'm still mad about Justin Jefferson. Okay. So, screw off. But I could also see them going Kyle Hamilton here, Jameson Williams as well. But at the end of the day, I think they want that corner and they might force that need.
Yeah,
good pick.
I don't want to spend too much time on these defensive picks because I feel like we've done enough. But real quick, the Vikings feel like this team that they need defense so much. But also, if we look at Adam Thielen, he's over the age of 30, right? I really feel like this is a sneaky spot for a wide receiver that I don't see anybody mocking. Nobody's
I've seen that
mocking.
A couple times, but
have you? Who have they been going when you've seen it?
Jameson,
Drake London.
Okay. Jameson.
I've seen
just here and there for like a couple of Vikings like fan accounts, but really, you're right that not a lot of people are talking about it.
And I think this is a spot that might surprise people if they snag. Let's say the Jets go defense because we know the Jets need it. They don't take Drake London. Maybe the Falcons, like you were saying, Akash, go defensive, something like that. Mm-hmm. And our first wide receiver isn't until this area. If the Vikings have their pick at the wide receiver one that they want, I think they might do it, and no one's talking about it. So not that we need to spend a bunch of time on it. I just think it's an interesting spot that we didn't take, but they could. Kev, you are up here at 13 also because of our second trade of the evening. Tell the people about this trade.
Awesome. More trades.
Yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs have traded up to the 13th pick. They traded pick 29, 103, and a 2023 first. To move up, which is very similar to the trade that they made for Patrick Mahomes. They pretty much the same package.
They're going to draft Pickett?
Yes, they are. They have a need at quarterback.
All right.
So they went ahead and drafted Jameson Williams. This is the Chiefs obviously trading Tyreek Hill. They have Juju. They have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, which they both signed. Juju's only on a 1-year deal. They definitely need another wide receiver. McCole Hardman is in last year of his deal as well. And so they have been linked to pretty much every wide receiver. There's been talk about them trading for Debo. There's been talk about them trading for DK Metcalf. There's been talk about them trading for Terry McLaurin.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right? Which I get it. Like I know that's what people say. It's like, they didn't want to pay Tyreek Hill. They were going to pay Tyreek Hill. They offered Tyreek Hill $26, $27 million a year. He wanted more. The Chiefs said no. And then they let him go, right? With all these other wide receivers are younger. But I do think them drafting a wide receiver here, which is something they haven't done. They have not drafted a first-round wide receiver since like 2009 or 10 when they drafted John Baldwin.
Was it Bo? I forgot.
No, it was John Baldwin.
John Baldwin.
Yeah.
Jonathan Baldwin. Hell yeah. He was a good prospect, but he didn't work out.
Yes.
This one's interesting.
Yes. So
they're obviously a win-now team. But
what's that?
They're obviously a win-now team. No one disagrees with that.
Right.
But Jameson off the ACL injury, I don't know how effective he's going to be. And they're giving up the future picks.
I do think that is the good news for the Chiefs, though, is their Chiefs aren't a team that desperately needs him to come in and produce right away. They can give him time to.
But when you're giving up the future picks like that, you kind of are saying that you want the production right now.
Right. But
that feels like a misallocation of resources if you're giving up futures to get. That's giving up futures says you want more production right now, but Jameson Williams feels like he's not going to be as effective off the ACL injury.
Well, if it's the first 6 weeks, we've seen players come back and be perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they do.
He's not going to be ineffective the whole season. You're just losing some production overall.
I don't necessarily know if he makes it back, for the start of the season. And I think the Chiefs are smart enough franchise to say that, okay, you're going to sit the first 6 weeks. You're going to start the season on the pup, and then you're going to come back for the playoff run, and we're going to be good to go, which is what I envision seeing with Jameson Williams, even if he's like, hey, dude, I'm ready to go.
It's certainly possible.
Save the roster spot. Let him heal. He will be good for any team after he comes back, as long as he's allowed to heal properly. You're going to take him in the first round. Don't fuck him up. That's what I have to say.
There is a I think a better than 50% chance that they are trading up. That is one of the reasons why they've acquired all these picks. It is to be able to do this.
They have the ammo too.
And maybe like my pick of trading, especially 13. There's a difference between 10 and 13 in terms of the trade calculator, the trade stuff like that. So maybe they don't, because they do have 6 picks in the top 100. They don't necessarily have to trade that first to make that move, especially with a team like Houston that probably just covets more picks because of again, they're not really a win now team. But the Chiefs and Brett Veach has always been super aggressive and really doesn't give a shit about his picks. Look, I mean, every year, we've only made one first-round pick. That was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Obviously, didn't work out. But regardless of that, like we traded our first-round pick for Orlando Brown. The year before that, we traded the pick for Frank Clark. He just they just don't really care, and he's going to be super aggressive. So if their guy is there, and it's Jameson Williams, who's been somebody that they've really been linked to for months now. People have been mocking to him, but everybody now has Jameson Williams skyrocketing up and saying that he's not going to make it past the top 15 picks. And so if they want him, they're going to have to go get him. And the Chiefs are a team that has proven that they do not care. They will move up and get their guy. And so if this is the guy, I love Jameson Williams personally. I have him as my wide receiver 2 in this class. I think that the sky is the limit for him. And had he not had the injury, I think he'd be a lock probably for a top 10 pick.
I agree. NFL loves so much you have gone that high.
And the last thing about Jameson Williams real quick, and the Chiefs trading up in general. Some people might not like that trade up just because, it's a deep wide receiver draft, but it depends on what type of wide receiver you're trying to get. So if you want to wait until the second or third and get David Bell, George Pickens, that's fine. They're good wide receivers, but Jameson Williams is a different beast, and that does something different for your team. Yeah. And, he's the closest thing to Tyreek Hill in this draft. So if they feel like, okay, we want to replace that, field stretching role, and they have to get Jameson Williams, then that's something I completely see them doing. So, yes, keep in mind, deep draft. However, type of wide receiver, there's only so many of these guys.
Yeah, Tom, I like how you put that at that end. I think there's a teardrop, right? When we talk about these first 3 or 4 wide receivers, there's definitely a teardrop where you can still get some speed, but you're going to lack in strength. You can still get some, athletes, but you're going to lack in nuance and route running. Like, there is definitely a teardrop. So while I think there's not a lot of people that are a fan of this trade, Kev, and I would be one of them, I think this is too much to give up in a draft that I think that has a lot of good depth and a lot of good options for the Chiefs with what they have right now. I still think it's important to note that they're getting a really good wide receiver here. But real quick, because again, I want to spend more time on these fantasy relevant guys. Jameson Williams, let's say this happens, he gets drafted by the Chiefs. Where are we ranking him versus Wilson and London? Is he skyrocketing to number 1 because of the Chiefs in that landing spot? Tom, let's go to you first.
So in this landing spot, I'm still keeping Garrett Wilson as my 101, although because the first year I think might be slow for all these. We're not going to have a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase year, especially with these landing spots. So we have Garrett Wilson attached to Marcus Mariota. We have Drake London attached to Zach Wilson, and we have Jameson Williams, who might miss the first 4 or 5 weeks with Patrick Mahomes, which is the best landing spot by far, but the other guys are going to have the first 4 or 5 weeks. So if these are the landing spots, I'm probably still going Garrett Wilson, Jameson, and Drake London. So I'm not moving off of my rankings.
I don't adjust for landing spot. It's like, learn from like you said, Clyde Edwards.
No, and
it's really just the draft capital that makes me adjust. Like, right. If a guy I expect
sometimes you have to adjust slightly, because if you have, if somebody goes to the Jets, with no quarterback, etc., and somebody else goes to the Chiefs and they're close within like 3 or so, if you're not flipping those guys, then you're doing it wrong.
No, because landing spot situations can change really quickly.
Well, if you have,
like I said earlier, where good players are rising tides that lift all boats. And so
I think it matters more for
regardless.
I think landing spot matters more for running backs than it does for wide receivers. At least because running backs, in terms of like opportunity, right? Because wide receiver, you could end up in a terrible offense, but if there's nobody in front of you and you're going to step right in and be the starter from day one, it's obviously going to matter a lot more than a guy who's going to go and have to battle it out with somebody or be a 50-50 times player or something like that. So that's the only thing that really matters for me whenever I talk about landing spot. It's more opportunity based than anything, and more for running backs than anything else.
Yeah, because wide receiver, you can have 3 guys out there
right.
majority of the time, and if you're out there, you're gonna earn targets and you're gonna earn snaps. It's just looking at the draft capital. If I expect a guy to go in the early round 1 or mid round 1, he goes all the way in round 2, then I'm gonna adjust. But it's really not less stuff for the landing spot, because landing spot changes. Good players can go to bad landing spots and still do well, and a bad player can go to a good landing spot and not do well. Open receiver rooms doesn't really change things for me. We see guys like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Denzel Mims, and Brent Edwards not succeed even when there's no one in front of them. And then we see guys like
who shall not be named by anyone else.
Yep.
All right. Let's keep moving here. We've got Baltimore Ravens, number 14 on the clock, and I feel like they've been looking for somebody to replace Hologi Nada as that strong run stuffer, can push the pocket, defensive tackle. They're 1 tech, hey, he can check that box. They're 3 tech, hey, he can check that box, and that's Devante Wyatt. We had some talk in the Discord. If you guys are not in the TFA Discord, make sure you check out our link. We're going to drop it here in a bit. When I get done talking, I'll drop it in the chat. But get in the Discord with us, because we're talking all about these picks, this draft, dynasty, fantasy, everything you want. But Devante Wyatt has had a little bit of a slide. There's been some off the field concerns, and so maybe he doesn't go at this pick. But I took this pick before I kind of got that information. I think if you're looking for a game-changing guy on the field, this is a guy that will absolutely push the pocket. He can line up in multiple spots for the Ravens here, in a spot that they really, really need. He can keep things clean for their linebackers. He has the versatility to kick outside if you need him. So number 14 is going to be Devante Wyatt for the Ravens. I'm going to go to Tom with number 15.
Yeah, so I'm picking for the Eagles again. And I would have taken Jameson Williams had he fallen, but I saw that I had that tier there where Jameson Williams, Jordan Davis was in the tier, and then the secondary, Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame. I'm not going to lie. I was shocked he fell this far. If Kev didn't trade up with himself, I probably would have moved back with Kev and gotten a second-round pick back or something like that. But that didn't happen. Instead, I'm forced to take arguably like a top 5 player in the draft who fell because of positional value. With Hamilton and Stingley.
He's not fast. Come on, man. Nah, you're good.
I don't like you. With Hamilton and Stingley, like in the first, all of a sudden the Eagles secondary could be like a top 5 defense in the league for years to come, because Slay's on the other side. So yeah, I went Kyle Hamilton here, Hamilton and Stingley in the first round for the Eagles. If you're just, I was salivating. I was so excited that he fell that far at 15. Like, I may not have traded up had I known I was getting Kyle Hamilton at 15. But you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm thrilled with how.
Are you an Eagles fan?
Yes, I am, sir. I don't understand how you know. Get it together.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah, that's a steal.
But
for
yeah,
you.
no, get it done.
That's a steal. Yeah.
Yep.
Really good secondary additions.
Yep. Kyle Hamilton expected to kind of go in that top 10, 12, falls to 15. I think that's a fantastic pick. Let's go over to Kev here with New Orleans. First pick, number 16. Let's get it.
Yes, so I kind of went back and forth with this pick, but I felt like the Saints, after making just the terrible trade they made with the Eagles, I mean, just absolutely embarrassing. Giving away what's likely a top 10 pick next year to get 2 second or 2 first in this draft. So I decided to go with a wide receiver first, because I felt like there was a chance, especially with the teams that were ahead of them, mainly the Chargers, could possibly take this pick or take this player. So I went ahead and took Chris Olave from Ohio State here. They obviously have, even though he is probably completely washed, Michael Thomas, who is still there, Marquez Callaway, who, I think kind of, had a minor breakout last year, especially with all the quarterback that kind of was all over the place, but they don't really have this type of field stretcher. Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn days for them. So Chris Olave, I think, steps in and to this offense, hopefully maybe, Jameis Winston, could be okay by then. But if not, Lord help us if it's Taysom Hill. But yes, I should have, Cody. That is who I should have went with as a kicker here. But yes, Chris Olave was the pick here. I just think it made a lot of sense for them in their wide receiver room. They are kind of lacking, who knows what Michael Thomas has left, to be honest with you. The guy has, been through a lot of injuries, and he is now, 28, 29 years old, slant boy, as we know it.
Hasn't played in 2 years.
We'll see what he's got left. I don't think it's a ton.
I like Michael Thomas. Got really good upside. Like when we've seen him play, he's been nothing but elite, and I'm willing to bet on.
But the problem is we really haven't seen him play.
Yeah, he hasn't played in a year, but
we haven't seen him play since COVID was a thing.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
again,
Rolito.
If Hamilton wasn't on the board, I probably would have went Olave at 15. I think that's a really good pick for the Saints.
He feels like a Saints wide receiver, doesn't he, guys? Like I feel he does everything well, nuanced route runner. He almost feels like a smaller. So he's not the same size wide receiver as Marquise Colston, but he does like the same things as Marquise Colston really well. Just a better athlete, right? Like he can run all the routes. He gets separation. Like he's just kind of
not in traffic.
Right. I get that. But like he is ready to produce now. And I think he helps Winston. You're opposite of Michael Thomas. I don't know how long the Saints are for Michael Thomas. It feels like that's always a tepid situation. Marquez Callaway gives you that deep threat, but Olave can also give that to you as well. So if anyone's listened to me before, they know I'm an Olave guy. And I feel like this is a good landing spot with him because Winston can throw the deep ball. And I think Olave really helps him with all that intermediate stuff as well. So I think this is a good marriage. Again, as we've talked about with a lot of these rookies, it's going to take time. If we're talking dynasty, great pick. Let's wait on it. Let's have some fun. Redraft, you're probably pushing him down a bit. And I think it's just because we need to not expect the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Tom, I think you made this point earlier. We need to realize that that's not an every year thing, even though it's happened back-to-back years, 2020, 2021. It's not going to continue all this time. I think this is more like that, not the 2019 class. I think it's better than the 2019 class, but the production won't be there immediately. Give it some time.
Yeah, man. Let's go to who's up? Jobby? Jobby, you up 2 times?
It's about time I make a pick. I trade a pick away, and I don't get to make a pick for like 3 or 4 here.
You get 3 out of 4 coming up, just like I got 3 out of 4. So quit your whining.
You picked for Baltimore. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's true. That's true. We skimmed over that one real quick.
Who has 19?
You'll find out.
Nice.
Real quick. Let's go.
Jobby McJobberson.
We are at number 17, right, with the Chargers here. And so I think this is a guy that's actually fallen quite a bit here. You can argue some people have seen him as the OT1. Some people say, hey, he's right there with Icky and Evan Neal. I think Charles Cross is a really good spot here for the Chargers. You could argue Jordan Davis, and I'll just do the quick argument here. Their tackles are disgusting on defense. If you want to pick a spot on their defensive, you could take Jordan Davis. I agree with that. But if we have Justin Herbert, we have Austin Eckler, we have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, all of this, what's the one piece they need to work on their offensive line? It's that secondary tackle opposite of Rashawn Slater. Slater, they had some questions about him with arm length coming in. They thought maybe he needs to be a guard, maybe he needs to be right tackle. Well, now you get a guy that is left tackle ready, absolutely, and I think that's Charles Cross. He can anchor there. His hand placement is good. Check that off. His point of attack, his punch there is fantastic. So I really think that you could maybe switch Slater to right tackle and play Charles Cross at left tackle. And now you have Justin Herbert really protected fully for the next couple of years here with these 2 guys in back-to-back drafts. And now your offense is going. You're still going to have to address D tackle at some point because you definitely need help there. But I really like this pick. I know it's not a fancy pick, so we don't have to dive too much into it, but this is just a good pick for a team that should have made the playoffs last year that I think they're going to be really dangerous here in 2022.
Yeah, you talk NFL picks, and the Chargers are just they have Charles Cross, Penning, and Jordan Davis to pick from, which the draft felt really well for the Chargers here. So any one of them, you're just going to walk away saying, okay, I feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Charles Cross probably makes it out of the top 10, but we'll see.
It's just how it fell.
Yeah, he fell heavy.
Yeah. So the next pick is the Saints, and
no, it's not. It's Washington. Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right.
We have a trade.
There shouldn't have been, because there's no way that the Steelers should have moved up at all to get this quarterback, because it's just disrespectful.
No way.
Yeah. So I think when we have an individual falling like we have with a certain quarterback here who is expected to maybe go 6, maybe go 8.
Cover your ears, Cody, if you're listening.
I think Pittsburgh does trade up for a quarterback because they've been really hot for Malik Willis. He's gone. They've also been doing a lot of scouting with Kenny Pickett, and that's the pick that's going to be here at 18. So Philly trades. Pittsburgh trades up here, gets 18. Washington trades back again. So 2 trades back for Washington. A little bit spicy, but I think it's only 2 picks here. They'll collect a 138 pick, which is a 4th rounder, and a 207, which I believe is a 6th rounder. So they get a little bit more capital, and they're really going to get the same guy that they wanted here at 20. I make the pick for them as well. But Pittsburgh gets the quarterback because I wanted them to jump in front of New Orleans because New Orleans definitely has need at quarterback. I thought they've scouted Kenny Pickett. He's done a top 30 visit to New Orleans. So I just wanted to get in front of him and make sure that Pittsburgh got the quarterback that they wanted, and that is Kenny Pickett. He stays here in Pittsburgh. I think Mike Tomlin wants Malik Willis, but if Malik Willis goes at 6, he's obviously not trying to trade up above that to get that. So in this scenario, if Malik Willis goes at 6, he's going to wait, see what Seattle does, see what Washington does. Washington traded out of 11. And so now you have Minnesota, Baltimore, Philly, some of these teams that don't need a quarterback. New Orleans first pick, they don't go wide receiver. So now you just have a small trade up. You just need to give up a 4th and a 6th. They're going to do that all day and get a guy that's sliding way outside of what his over-under is in terms of picks, and that's Kenny Pickett. He's NFL ready. People have questions about the hand size. I get it. People have questions about that upside. I get it. But he is absolutely NFL ready, so you pair him with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris. You're telling me he can't be fantasy relevant year 1? I absolutely think he can. And if this scenario falls, I like him a lot more than Malik Willis year 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they can go QB easy, and getting Pickett. Good for Deontay Johnson, probably because he's going to target him heavily, and I'm fine with it. Give a little bit up to make sure you get the guy that you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you don't have a
Pittsburgh move where they just trade up 2 spots instead of trading up 12 or 13 and giving up the future. It just seems like a trade like smart franchises generally make.
This seems like a smarter deal than giving up a farm to move up to 6 or 8. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good pick. When you don't really have a quarterback, you should try to get one, and then taking a shot in the 20s or 18 on a quarterback, it's solid because we're pretty bad at evaluating them. So this could absolutely pan out well.
Right, and also at 18, it's not like Pickett has a ton of pressure on him to go in and start day 1 because you have Trubisky there, and they're going to have a competition, so to speak. And Trubisky's going to win, and Pickett's going to sit. But if Trubisky goes out and he plays well, then that's fine. And at 18, the team's already pretty good, and they usually draft well in the later rounds, so they'll be fine.
Yeah. It's
so real quick before Kevin goes here with 19, let's do a quick little recap for those listening on the podcast form. Travon Walker, number 1, Aiden Hutchinson, number 2, Kayvon Thibodeau, number 3, Ahmad Gardner, number 4 to the Jets, Evan Neal, Malik Willis goes to the Carolina Panthers, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson goes to Atlanta at 8, Ike Mukwanu at 9, Drake London to the Jets and their second pick at 10, Derrick Stingley at 11 in a trade up for Philadelphia. Minnesota with Trent McDuffie at 12. KC does a big trade up to get Jameson Williams, help their wide receiver corps. Baltimore goes 14 for Devante Wyatt. Philly 15 with Kyle Hamilton. Chris Olave at 16. Charles Cross. Kenny Pickett at 18 with a small trade up for Pittsburgh to get them there at 18. And Kev, you are now up at 19 with the Saints' second pick.
First of all, I will not stand by and listen to any negativity around Mitchell Trubisky. He is definitely the quarterback for the Steelers. Them taking any quarterback is just ridiculous, and especially trading up for one. But I digress. Let's go with the Saints' next pick, and that is going to be a offensive lineman. Surprise, surprise. They definitely need to address the offensive line after losing Teron Armstead. They definitely need an offensive tackle. So we went with Trevor Penning here, offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. 6'7", 333 pounds. The dude possesses absolutely elite physical tools. The guy's an absolute mauler, and sometimes gets into trouble because he plays too much after the whistle. He had 31 penalties.
He's an angry little elf.
Yes, but he just plays with an absolute mean streak. He absolutely loves just mauling people. Only allowed 1 sack last year, 1 sack in 2020, 4 in 2019. Very few hurries either. So the guy has a very high ceiling, and I think this would be a great fit for the Saints, especially after losing Teron Armstead. They need a little retooling along that offensive line, and especially when you're probably going to have Jameson Winston, who's coming off a major injury. You definitely need to try to protect that asset as well. And they're definitely going to be a team that's going to try to run the ball. So I think Trevor Penning makes a lot of sense here with a lot of the offensive linemen starting to fall off the board.
Yeah, this just your picks make the trade like horrible, in my opinion. Like it was bad, and then you get Olave and Penning, and you gave up a future first, a future second, a third in this draft.
I thought about trading up because there's been like some talk. People are like, well, maybe they made this move because they want to trade up to get somebody. But
right?
There's fucking nobody that I can think of that like who would you absolutely need to trade up for? Like,
what were they doing?
You're not. I don't get it.
Like, Saints making bad moves. Yeah,
it's such a terrible move to watch, and the fact that they gave up a first for next year when their team is not going to be very good, right? And it's very possible that it could be a top 10 pick next year. It's not even crazy to think it could be a top 5 pick next year, right? Like it's not even out of the realm of possibility. And my goodness,
the crazy part
Howie
is
looking
like
smart. Howie looking like a genius right now.
The crazy part is your 2 picks make complete sense. It's just why would you give that much up?
Yep.
That's all it is. It's just they make sense. They make the team better, but eesh. Yeah, let's go on to Jabe here with Washington.
Yeah, let's do it. So Washington trades back twice, a little takey there, but I think they still get a player that they probably would have taken at least with their second trade back here. Their guards are Andrew Norwell, who they got from Jacksonville, 30 years old, 28-year-old journeyman Wes Schweitzer on the other side here. They absolutely need interior help, and I think they get that with Zion Johnson, who not only do you get all this extra draft capital with the double trade back, but you now get probably one, if not the 1 or 2 top guard in this draft. And so you get the 51 pick from Philly, you get the 4th rounder and the 6th rounder to boot from the Steelers. It's not too shabby, and you get to keep Carson Wentz upright. It's not a sexy pick, but it's a pick that makes sense for this team who traded back twice, and they still get you could argue the top interior offensive lineman in this draft with his versatility, his ability to plant and go against the run. I really like this pick, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on it because it is the offensive line. But
you said Zion Johnson?
Zion Johnson from Boston College. Hey, that's kind of your area, Kosh.
They're our rivals. Come on, man.
Yeah, I know. So, hey, you still like the pick?
Yeah, it's solid.
Okay. Listen, Robbie, no matter who
wish for Ritter, but
no matter who Washington puts in front of Carson Wentz, he will not stay off his back. So that's just how he lives his life. It's fine. All right, we have another trade here. New England is up. They're going to trade 21 to Cincinnati for 31 and 136. And by the way, if you're evaluating that trade sounds like a ripoff, the team trading up, we use the Jimmy Johnson trade chart.
What's the picks? What are the
20?
picks?
That's 31 and 136. So it's only a 4. So the trade chart says that is well good. The team trading up gave up more every single time than the team trading down. So Cincinnati trades up. Jordan Davis, I feel like I don't think there's a chance in hell that he actually falls as far.
Correct.
But it's a match made in heaven for the Bengals. When Zion went last pick, I knew I was trading out for New England. and found a really easy partner in Cincinnati. And I don't think we've got to talk too much about that because that was too easy. Cincinnati gives up a 4. They're like, whatever, we got our guy. New England loves to draft guys in the 4th, 3rd round, 5th round, the depth. So, yeah, good to go.
Yep. Love that pick. He fell too far. Not too much commentary needed on that one. Kev, I really, really think this pick for Green Bay at 22, I think is where we're at, is super interesting. Talk to us. They let go of Devante Adams. They have a ton of needs with also letting go of Zadarius Smith on defense. They have some defensive holes. Who did you go here for Green Bay at 22?
What I did is who knows if Green Bay will actually do it because they've needed a wide receiver for the past 2 or 3 years and they continue
17 years.
Yes, just continually pass on the position, and this is a deeper class, so it is possible that they don't take one with their first either of their first 2 picks that they have in the first round, and maybe they wait a little bit longer to take a wide receiver. But right now, that wide receiver room is Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins, the ghost of Sammy Watkins. So not a lot there.
That's right.
And so I went with Treylon Burks here from Arkansas. Gives them a big, physical wide receiver. In similar respects to what they had with Devante Adams. Obviously, he's not Devante Adams, but I think that this would be a great fit. This actually would be, in terms of just, especially for this year and beyond, without really nothing else there, like this is a absolute perfect spot for him. He kind of steps right in. It could very well be somebody who does produce, and year one, somebody that you look at maybe gets 1,000 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns year one. Certainly possible for him with not a whole lot in resistance. They don't. Their tight end isn't great either, coming off a major injury. So Treylon Burks just made a lot of sense. I couldn't see him falling much further than this. So Green Bay gets their wide receiver. I definitely think they're going to be a team that takes multiple wide receivers, but I think now that they can wait a little bit longer and address some other concerns that they may have. So Treylon Burks, Green Bay.
So with that pick, it's interesting because this is where landing spots come into play, where you say landing spots don't move off of you and landing spots do move things for you, because you have Garrett Wilson with Atlanta, Drake London with the Jets, and then you have Jameson Williams with the Chiefs, which is an awesome spot, and Treylon Burks with the Packers. That's going to adjust people's rankings. Whether or not it adjusts yours, it doesn't matter, but Treylon Burks is in the wide receiver 1 picture for people if he goes to Green Bay, even if it's a 22. So that's a really interesting pick. I think that's a pick that fantasy people would just like salivate over, and he would shoot up because a lot of fantasy people still love Treylon Burks. They have him as their wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. So they don't need a lot. And yet Robbie's saying wide receiver 1. So they don't need a lot. So if he gets a landing spot like that, then what happens? So you're going to see the landing spot crowd come out in mass saying, no. He was the wide receiver 4 before the draft. He's wide receiver 4 now. So that'll be interesting, man.
It's easy to say that, but we also forget how bad fucking Devante Adams was before, like the first couple of years.
First 2 years, yeah.
Trash.
That's a good point. Yep.
So, sure. You could get something like that, but, we've seen him, what he's been able to do with somebody like Devante Adams, who, again, I specifically remember, I can't remember what year that was, but when he had that game where he got like 20, 21 targets, he only had like, what was it, like 3 or 4 receptions or whatever it was?
4 drops.
I've seen that one.
Yes, I went absolutely off on that guy. I was like, this guy's fucking terrible. He has no business playing in the NFL.
Still got the targets.
Yes, but targets, or something that's earned, and stuff like that. And
he had 21 targets for 79 receiving yards.
Yeah, it was
3.7 yards per target is absolutely awful.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so it's my pick now, but I'm gonna hit on this question. Go ahead. Sorry.
Real quick. Oh, you want to hit on the question? No, that's what I was going to do as well, because I love this pick because we talked, I think it was last week, Kev, we were on with Dane Brugler's mock, and they mocked Chris Olave to the Packers. And I said, hey, this makes Chris Olave top wide receiver for me. And I'm going to do the same thing for here, Treylon Burks, because If it's a wide receiver that's a top 3 or 4 pick for me, when they land in this type of spot with the amount of targets that are available, Akash, we can have a conversation here about vacated targets or not. But like, there is such an opportunity to have in this offense with what's available in this wide receiver room that I love a first round draft capital going to this spot, playing with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if it's 1 year. I don't know if it's 3 years. They have a phantom 4th year for Aaron Rodgers' contract, but this is a spot where I hear Joe's point that maybe you don't know Burks as this nuanced wide receiver running all these routes, but he is such a versatile guy doing stuff out of the backfield, absolutely creating after the catch. He's very athletic. People knock him, and the reason he's down at this 20 spot, wherever we're at 22, is because people thought he had a bad 40 time. They thought he had a bad combine. 4.55 for his size and his speed is, I forget what it was, but it was 80 or 85th percentile. Like, it's fantastic.
No, it's in the 90s.
Yeah, like 90s. So I know we've heard this. Some people have heard this, but not everybody's heard this. That was a great time. Like, I just want to say that was a great time, a great 40 time. And I'm not the guy that pumps up 40 times, but I hate when it knocks people, right? Like, I don't want to adjust too far off of 40 time.
People are expecting 4.3, and then he has a really good time at 4.
You can't be.
4.55.
Everyone can't be Julio Jones and run a 4.37.
People expect DK Metcalf, and he runs. He's still, you're right. I just checked. Is an 85 percentile speed score on Player Profiler. That's still really good. And it's like, I'm with you.
Yep. So, and I love this comment here. Just a recent comment from Little Boxes here on Twitch. Thanks you for joining us. Speed isn't as important. It's definitely a factor, and I know we love that, right? We see DJ Chark get first round capital because he runs the fastest 40. We've seen John Ross a couple years ago get, what was he, 10th overall because of his 40. 8, yeah, 9. For sure. So we know that speed.
9. McCaffrey was 8, and then Ross was 9, and then Mahomes was 10.
All right.
What a memory. Love that. Like, I know that speed does this, but I agree. This is why I'm a little bit higher on David Bell. We don't have to get into that, but like, this is why I don't think speed is the overall end all be all, because it's what your production's been. It's how you can win, and it doesn't have to be speed. So I really like Treylon Burks. I'm not knocking him like everybody else. He's still my wide receiver 1, which I know is not consensus at this point. I do understand he won't be the number 1 wide receiver off the board, but if you're telling me he's going to the back half of the first, he's going to either the Chiefs, Packers, Bills, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to a better landing spot. He's going to end up being my dynasty, or we can talk about redraft. He's going to be my wide receiver rookie 1 because of these landing spots and because of his talent.
Yeah, so you're speaking my language here with the speed thing, Robbie. It makes up for your vacated target comment earlier. I forgive you.
I'm glad you guys made up. I have 23 with Arizona, and I was going to take Treylon Burks here, which would have been a very interesting fit. Sniped. But obviously, I got sniped. So I'm looking at their needs, and I say, all right, Tyler Linderbaum. It was a tough pick, man. I can't really get a beat on what Arizona is going to do. They have a need on the offensive line as far as like depth. It might be nice not having Kyler lay on his back so much. I feel like that's good if he's on the field. Linderbaum's the best lineman left in the draft. I feel like he's better than the 2 that just went in, Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson. He can play guard if you have to. Their center is Rodney Hudson, I believe, who was not so great last year.
Nope.
So you can shift Rodney Hudson if you have to. But again, I was going to go Treylon there. I could see them going Sky Moore. But if I'm the Cardinals, I'm taking an offensive lineman here, and I'm just protecting Kyler.
Sky Moore round 1 is an analytical dream. Oh my goodness.
Sky Moore round 1. Listen, Sky Moore round 1 is going to happen because of the draft needs at the end of the draft.
That's right. It's all because of Christian Kirk too. This is amazing. Because
it's going to happen. So legit, like, you bring a really good point up, because you have all these teams that are thinking about trading for a wide receiver or drafting a wide receiver, right? So you talk about the Jets. The Jets are in the mix, right? That trade would not happen until that 10 pick is on the board, because I don't feel like they're going to take Garrett Wilson or London at 4. So they take Sauce, and then they say, okay, who's there at 10? If our guy is gone, maybe we make that trade. So I don't think that Debo deal is going to go down until draft day, which would be just talking
amazing.
about bombshell, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. Especially because we're doing a live show, right, Kev? Right. That would just be like fantasy goodness. So
that'd be hilarious.
I would love to see Debo traded during the draft.
Definitely interesting. I was talking about the Kirk trade because with all these wide receiver contracts increasing for veterans, you can see teams try to invest more in the younger players that get
right, and that's the same thing you see with the Eagles and with the Chiefs now, right? So and even the Packers. So you see the Packers and the Chiefs trade away wide receivers. Now these wide receivers are coming available, like Debo. Why are they going to trade for a guy who they have to pay $25 million to when they just traded another guy away? It doesn't make any sense. And the Eagles, I don't think they're going to do it necessarily because they're waiting for something. But it's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but I also think that I think the move the Packers and the Chiefs made was both. I think a smart move long term.
No, it was fine. I'm not saying it was
just
bad. It's just you don't do that and then give up a ton of capital.
It's so hard to wrap my head around that. It's crazy.
Yeah, but so here's the question though: why, if you're the Chiefs, why are you going to get that capital and then give it all back up for Debo, who doesn't have the track record that Tyreek does? You would have just paid Tyreek
I don't
$3
want
million more.
Debo Samuel. I don't at all. And like his big thing from when it's starting to come out, it sounds like he doesn't want to be a running back, right? And so. But I think that's where he has the most value. Like, I think if he gets traded somewhere, I don't think he's nearly as valuable if he does not have that role of more so for fantasy purposes. He's not as valuable, right? And he's been somebody, he has 1 year of production. Obviously, it was a great year that he had this year, 14 touchdowns, but a lot of it came because of the rushing upside that he had. I understand why he doesn't want to do that. He's probably looking out for his long-term health and wanting to be able to maximize his deal long-term. And obviously the 49ers just want to run him into the ground, and that's not what he wants to do. And, so, but as like the Chiefs, I don't want the Chiefs to trade for Debo Samuel. I don't think it's a need. I don't think it's something they need to do at this point. They might as well just invest through the draft. And, that's what I would rather see them do, because it essentially freed up $25 to $28 million a year for the next 3 years for them to be able to really do other things with this. Obviously, the Patrick Mahomes deal is probably the best deal in all of football, because they have these every single year where they can convert his roster, or his salary into a roster bonus every single year. They didn't do it this year, but for the next couple of years, they can continue to do this. And by the time they're paying them $40-50 million a year, the cap is going to skyrocket up. And so, because of the new money that's coming in, everybody always talks about every year, the Chiefs aren't going to have any money. How do the Chiefs keep doing this? But the move that they did with the Chiefs, with his contract, is one of the smartest that there's been. Every single year, they can create $20-30 million in cap. So I think not paying Tyreek Hill, while for the short term this year might hurt a little bit, but I think for the long term gain, I think it was a smarter move for them not to do that.
Yeah, they've already set down this path by trading away. I don't think they trade for Debo. When you're this far ahead of everyone in terms of just how much your roster is worth and how much you're already winning, the worst thing you can do is be stagnant. And they've been making a ton of moves, even with the greatness that Patrick Mahomes has. You talked about their first round trades with trading for Orlando Brown and Frank Clark, and now trading away Debo. It's good moves all around for them. I don't think they'd trade for Debo. Yeah, but for Debo fantasy, I would really rather not see him at running back, because you said, like you said, it is increased touches, but those touches really took away from him as a wide receiver, and him as a pure wide receiver is a lot better for fantasy, because we play in a PPR world, and also because, like you said, longevity.
Yeah, right. But I think if he goes somewhere else, I don't know if he'll be utilized the same way. So
yeah,
we'll see.
He's a good wide receiver. It's just
yes,
he's a good wide back, but he's also a good receiver. We saw in the beginning of the season he was.
I don't think that he's a terrible receiver, but I don't think he's as good as he thinks that he is in terms of just a pure raw wide receiver.
Yeah,
and so I think. But regardless, I guess we'll see where what ends up happening. I think there's a better chance he doesn't get traded at all, and they figure this thing out. But
a lot of noise.
Yes.
Yep.
So
and the teams are really separate, right? Like the team says this, he says that. It's going to have to work out one way or the other. So we'll table that discussion. It's a good discussion, because I do think his value, like Joe's saying, will take a hit if he goes elsewhere. You guys are saying he won't be utilized the same way. I agree. We know the touchdown for his rushing totals will go down. So that's absolutely a hit to his value if he gets traded. Let's get to the most important pick of this draft. Cowboys, number 24.
Jerry. That's right. Jerry got Burke sniped from him.
Yep, Jerry, absolutely. Yeah, Akash, Jerry Jones as well as anybody else. He probably goes Treylon Burks here. Thank goodness Kevin snipes him at number 22, to Green Bay. That means he takes the guy that I want him to take, and I think they will take if he's here, Kenyon Green. I think he is the Landon Dickerson of this 2022 class without the injuries, right? This guy can play 4 positions on the offensive line. He's played left tackle, left guard, right tackle. He can play anywhere at A&M, Texas A&M that is. He's super versatile. He can play both guard spots, which the Cowboys need. They lost their left guard, Connor Williams, to free agency. Their right guard spot, obviously Zach Martin. He's there, but he's getting older. So I think we have a guy that he needs to be able to be versatile. He's 6'4", 323, absolutely thick, lower body. He can move people off their spot, and I really like that for a team. Obviously, we have some Zeke. I don't want to call them haters, but the anti-Zeke crowd is in our TFA crew right now. But we still know this offense works off of the run to build up to the pass, and that's going to be something that's no different with Kellen Moore in the offense. So you're going to need somebody that can push for the run game, and so I really like this pick with Treylon Burks going to Green Bay. It really fits here for Kenyon Green to turn into Dallas Blue. That is my pick here at 24. Let's go to 25 here with Kevin Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people mocking Breece Hall to the Bills, and while I hate it, I don't think any running back should ever go in the first round, really.
Yeah.
Though we'll probably see like B. John Robinson go in like the top 10 next year, just because NFL teams just.
And Travion. There's going to be 2 running backs in the first round.
I would love to see him get drafted. B. John going top 10 because then we just own all the. Well, I know after Jonathan Taylor's last year, people are saying, the discourse has subsided on him as a prospect not being generational. But then we can put an end to the argument that the landscape is changing, and then not going to see any more high first round running backs. But I agree with Breece Hall at here would be pretty bad.
The years that we see running backs go in the first round are the years that running backs match up with needs, and it just makes sense.
But none of them have been worth it. None of them have been good. Like
I agree.
Zeke was not worth it. It was a terrible pick for them. They had no business taking Zeke where they took him. Like every one of them, should have taken none of them have mattered. Right? And
Fournette got cut. CMC's had injuries, and they've won like 5 games a year in the years he's been healthy. And then the year after that, Saquon, obviously not. Rashad Penny, no. Sony Michel,
horrible pick.
And then Josh Jacobs, no. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, no. Travis Etienne, no. Najee Harris,
Sony Michel.
Yeah, exactly. It's been bad.
It's just not worth it. And so I did not go running back, but I'm just seeing a lot of people mocking there.
I've seen Brandon Beane talk about it. I've seen him. There's a snippet earlier today where he's saying about Breece Hall. If he fits what we're looking for in a playmaker, then nothing's off the table. Like, bro, he was doing so well, investing very little capital. Like the duo of Singletary and Moss gets it done just fine. You were in an AFC championship. Like, chill out on the Breece Hall at 25 talk.
Yeah. I totally agree. And if you really want him, I think you can easily trade up for him in the second round. So I went with a corner here. I went with Andrew Booth. I felt like this was a decent spot for them to get better. Last year, he needs to definitely work. He 21.8% career missed tackle rate, which is obviously not great. He's gonna have to get better there, especially in the NFL. But with a lot of the corners gone, I still think that this guy is a top 4 or 5 corner in this class, and so this is a little bit of a need for the Bills, and so the last year they heavily invested in their defense, especially their defensive line. I think now you take a look at their secondary. I do think that there is a shot that they could go wide receiver here. Obviously they have Stephon Diggs, but I know everybody is in love with Gabe Davis this year, but there's definitely a wide receiver coming for this team. They've been another team that's kind of been interested in a lot of these guys. They brought in veteran guys, Manuel Sanders, and guys like that over the last couple of years. But I would not be shocked if they went a wide receiver here, maybe like a Sky Moore. Could definitely be. But so overall, I just think corner makes a little bit more sense. So that's why I went with Andrew Booth here.
So does anybody else have Booth? I don't know how much tape you've watched on corners. I like Booth more than McDuffie, and I don't get it.
You took McDuffie for a team, didn't you?
I know, but everyone else
is doing what he thinks they would do.
Okay,
no,
fair.
That's what I think they would do. Exactly, and that feels like a Vikings pick. Like I think Booth is the better player.
Solid.
If anybody else can disagree with me, that's great. If not, then let's go on to Tennessee.
Whoever goes higher is probably the better player.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's how the draft works.
Let's go Tennessee because we have another wide receiver comes off the board here. I immediately was not happy just because it's Tennessee. And I'm like, God damn it! And it happens to be one of my favorite wide receivers in this class. So Robbie,
can't spell favorite. Robbie made the pick. Wise. Go ahead, Robbie.
Yeah. So Sky Moore, as you alluded to, a wide receiver does go, and we've been talking about Sky Moore for a bit. And this is a guy that, if you look at the pre-draft process, you look at the Senior Bowl, you look at some of these spots where he's been able to rise up draft boards. He absolutely has. And
he's an early declare. Sorry,
he's declare. For sure. So he's in that second round mold, late first round mold. And I think when it matches up with a team that needs a wide receiver, with a team that has, or with a player that has this skill set, it's definitely a spot where he can be taken. You can argue that it's too soon, and I'm going to hear that. Let us know in the comments what you think about this pick, because we're talking about a fantasy relevant guy here, and I can definitely hear the argument that it's too soon. But let's talk about his winnable traits as an exceptional slot receiver. He's extremely slippery once he becomes a runner. He's super quick to get some separation. And if you're talking about someone who can play the inside when you have Robert Woods and A.J. Brown on the outside, it just really makes sense. And I get it for redraft purposes. It's not great, right? He's going to be on a run-first team behind A.J. Brown, behind Robert Woods. We're talking about a 60-catch, 650-yard season with 4 touchdowns. It's not great, but I think we look at Robert Woods, who's 29, I think right on that cusp of 30. A.J. Brown obviously wants to get paid. I think he'll get paid by the Titans. I don't think he's going anywhere, but there's obviously the talk going around there. I think this really helps the Titans get, from an NFL standpoint, get that run with the proper landing spot, get back they are in the playoffs. Let's get that deep playoff run with King Henry and a full wide receiver corps for Ryan Tannehill. I think this is just a really, really good fit for them. It's not a great fantasy and dynasty fit. Kev, I'll go to you because I know you hate this pick for a guy that you really, really like.
It's just not an exciting spot, kind of like A.J. Brown when he got to the Titans before, run first offense. But I absolutely love Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore is more than just a slot. Like, I think he can play on the outside. He can play on the inside. He can play all over the place. I think the absolute best comp I have heard from him is DJ Moore. I think he really reminds me of him. And so some of the others I've heard is like Jarvis Landry, and
I heard Elijah Moore. Maybe that's just the last name talking.
Yeah, but I think Sky Moore and again, maybe we say that with DJ Moore, but like I think when you really look at them, they are very similar type players, and it's very, very, very rare to see from a small school come out early and be an early declare. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. I mean, most of these guys wait till they're 4 years. So the guy's an absolute baller. He can do everything, and so I love Sky Moore. And honestly, if the Chiefs don't trade up, if he's sitting there, I would be thrilled if the Chiefs took Sky Moore, with that pick. But with their 29th pick.
That's all.
Kev, let me talk to you about something real quick. Say you trade up and Sky Moore is sitting there. Do you take Sky Moore as well?
The Chiefs?
Yeah. Do you take 2 wide receivers? Do you go double wide receiver?
No, the Chiefs. As much as the Chiefs are great, like they have a lot of other. They have some other holes they desperately need to fill. Edge being one of them. Their best edge is right now Frank Clark, and that is not a good thing.
They have multiple seconds, right?
They do. They do have multiple seconds, but I think there's. But they also need a corner. They lost Shavarius Ward. They could possibly use another safety because of the scheme that Spagnuolo likes to run. And so they got Justin Reed, who was a great fit, but they need another guy to come in to play there. So they have a lot of other holes to fill. I can say this: there's zero chance the Chiefs actually draft 12 players in this draft. They only have like 7 or 8 available roster spots, so they're not going to draft 12 guys here. And if they do, they're going to be cutting some of the guys they draft for sure.
So could you see them taking 2 wide receivers in their first 4 picks? Which is,
I think it's possible they could take another wide receiver, but they have been very linked to Wan'Dale Robinson, somebody they could take in like the 3rd or 4th round. Much more of a kind of project, kind of use him very much like they did with Tyreek Hill his early years. Because with Tyreek, they use them as a running back, and stuff like that at times. Kick returner, punt returner, something like that they could do with Wan'Dale Robinson. It's possible.
They got the same height. That's interesting. That'd be very fun.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So I guess we'll move on to my next pick, which is Tampa Bay. This pick. I really wanted to give Tommy, an offensive lineman, specifically interior. Green, Linderbaum went. But so I went Daxton Hill. I think Daxton Hill goes earlier than this. I think this is a really good value. I think he's a really good player. I'm again, by the way, I'm sorry. I suck at making good fantasy picks. The only fantasy relevant player I have picked in this entire draft is Malik Willis at 6. So you're welcome, but it just didn't line up for me. Daxton Hill, Tampa Bay. Robbie, you're up with Green Bay.
So that's a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, Daxton Hill, Lewis Cine, I think there's a couple of safeties that are kind of back end of the first round, early second. And a lot of people argue Daxton Hill is kind of that guy. So when you look at Tampa Bay, a team that finally had to lose pieces, finally, after returning all of their players from their Super Bowl run, this is definitely a position of need alongside the safety that I'm blanking on from Minnesota. But this is a good pick that they absolutely need. Before I get to George Karlaftis, I think real quick with because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is the last wide receiver we're taking. Real quick, with all the wide receivers we've taken, let's just recap. We have Garrett Wilson to Atlanta. We have Drake London to the Jets. We have Jameson Williams to the Chiefs. We have Chris Olave to the Saints. We have Treylon Burks to the Green Bay Packers. And I believe Sky Moore is number 6, the final one, to the Titans. Nice. Akash, how would you rank these guys? Let's just look at redraft first. From a redraft year 1 process, who do you like? Pick 1 or 2 guys that you think could pop in year 1 or 2.
Redraft.
Shit, that's Treylon Burks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Burks and London. London and then Burks.
Okay.
Same order that I have for Dynasty. Yeah.
Are you the same there, Kev, with redraft purposes for who can produce year 1?
I don't start thinking about redraft until like September or August.
Fair. We're a little early for you.
Oh, I hope we're thinking about it before September, but season starting then. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm busy, cuz.
For the way that it landed right now, I think Chris Olave deserves to be in the discussion, especially with Jameis Winston. We all know Jameis Winston and his. Especially without Sean Payton there anymore, he can go back to being, I don't give a fuck, I'm going to chuck this ball. And there is some opportunity there because I just don't know if Michael Thomas is washed. So I think he deserves to be in the discussion. But Treylon Burks, definitely. I do think Jameson Williams could end up being, in the discussion as well. He is, by all reports, is well ahead of schedule in his recovery. And so, if he can make it back, we've seen crazier things. Even if he does miss a few weeks, again, doesn't really matter. We've seen a lot of other guys, Odell Beckham, his rookie year, started off kind of slow and then exploded in the second half. Could be seeing something like that. So, I think Jameson Williams would also be there.
Yeah. OBJ was crazy in his rookie year because he had that hamstring injury for the first 4 games.
Yep.
Then he came back, had 2 games, then the bye week. And then he absolutely exploded. And then over 3 games in the playoffs, he had like 40 points per game. And over his entire rookie season, he had 24 points per game. And it's the best rookie season over the last 20 years. Better than Chase and JJ, but he played 4 less games. So he didn't have any total yards.
Yeah. I don't know if we talked about this enough with Jameson Williams because it was the Chiefs trade and we were talking about all that. But like for Alabama, he had 79 catches for 1,500 yards,
That's bad.
1,600 yards for 19.9 yards per catch and 15 touchdowns. And I get it, right? Like Alabama's churning out wide receiver after wide receiver, but they're playing the SEC. They're playing against quality competition. We've seen all of the SEC defensive talent, especially from Georgia, that is in this draft first round. Like
also, it's not like the wide receivers they're churning out in the NFL are bad.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Like they're literally putting guy after guy in positions where we want to draft them. So I do think it's a good point that Kev made earlier that we're looking at this 6 week, maybe the pup list thing way too much, especially in Dynasty where that's not going to matter at all. Yeah. But Kev made this point, and I was going to make this point, but he's ahead of schedule. So if he only misses a couple games, guys, like this is going to be the steal of the draft here. Wherever he gets taken, 13 in this draft. I don't think he goes that high, but we'll see.
I think he could go higher.
Right.
I think so.
Because of all the things about him being ahead of schedule. Teams have more access to medical information than we do, the fans. And so if they get information about his knee being a lot better and ahead of schedule, then he could be a top 10 pick because he was expected to go that high before he tore his ACL.
It's
they're really valuing speed there, and he has a ton of speed. And Alabama.
It's also draft needs as far as teams need this, and that's a teardrop for teams. And if they see that Jameson Williams is going to go, and after that it's Olave, and they feel like that is a big difference, then teams are going to trade up. He's going to go. He's over under on Vegas is 15.5. He's going to go before 15.
Yeah,
I think the Eagles at 15, if they don't trade up, is his absolute lowest spot that he's going to go at 15.
Yep.
And I don't think he's going to make it there.
Yep.
That'd be fun though.
All right.
You smashing that prop? You gonna put some money on it?
Am I gonna?
Yeah. I mean, you just said he's gonna go above it for sure. So
all right. So listen, Robbie and I are gonna do a show next week with over-unders on draft prospects. It's gonna be gambling / me making up props for fantasy relevant players as well. So there's only so many things out there. So I'm going to throw some stuff out there, make my own line for some guys. But the Jameson Williams, 15.5, slam the under.
Absolutely.
He's going for that.
So let's finish this draft out. We are at number 28. This is Green Bay's second first-round pick, and it's going to be because we did Treylon Burks from Kevin earlier at 22. Let's go on the defensive side. They lost to Darius Smith, who outside linebacker, rusher. Let's go George Karlaftis because they absolutely need an edge guy. I know people think he's kind of more of a 4-3 fit, but this is a good-sized guy that can play that 3-4 as well and play that outside edge guy in a 3-4 defense. He has good size, right? 6'4", 275 pounds. He can push, right? He's absolutely one of the strongest edge rushers in this class. He's all power, no breaks. And I think he's exactly what Green Bay needs for this type of defense where they're trying to contain and they've lost a couple pieces. So what he lacks in speed, which is the knock why he's down this far, he's the last edge I think we took was 7 or 8, Jermaine Johnson, maybe it was 7. So we have a huge gap here in edges. When you think edges go a little bit more consistently in drafts, we go from 7 to 28 here. It's a huge drop. I think this is good value here for George Karlaftis out of Purdue. What he lacks in speed, he makes up in his technique, and I think Green Bay will really need him on the defensive side. So he's my pick for 28. Let's go to Kevin, 29 with Houston, who traded down to this pick with Kansas City.
I think this pick makes a lot of sense. He is somebody that is raw, but before the injury was staring down the barrel of being a top 10 pick, and that's David Ojabo. Wow. I know he tore his Achilles, but this is a team, again, Houston, that they're not in the need for somebody to come in and contribute day one. If he can meet his ceiling, it is incredibly high. This guy can be a very special player, but also very raw. He just started playing football 5 years ago, was from Nigeria, grew up in Scotland, but then, moved here 5 years ago. Really didn't play at all. Played 26 snaps his first 2 years with Michigan, but last year came out, had 11 sacks for Michigan. Just has an immense ceiling. in terms of his athleticism, his upside. He's basically all speed rush. He needs to learn how to, be doing more of a power rush, add some different tricks into his game. But if he can go to the right spot, develop him, like he can be a very, very, very special player. Now he falls a little bit because of the torn Achilles that he suffered. This gives him some time to recover. He probably doesn't play at all. Now we have seen players come back sooner than this. We just saw Cam Akers do it. We saw Terrell Suggs do it years ago, but I just don't think there's any reason for them to do so. Maybe he comes back in the second half of the year, get him in the last couple, get him some reps, stuff like that. But I just think this would be a good pick for them, somebody they can invest in, long term, give him opportunity. He doesn't need a rush back. So that's why I went with David Ojabo here for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, no problem with it. I think he's a first-round talent. I think he's one of those guys that might not make it in the first round, but teams would trade up for to get like early in the second.
Yep. Yeah. And so with the next pick, that's the Chiefs' second of the 30th overall. Again, talks about they desperately have a desperate need at edge rusher here, especially with, Frank Clark is 100% getting cut next year. They kind of redid his deal this year just to keep bringing him back. And then after this year, he'll be gone. So I went with another an edge rusher here, and that is Boy Mafe, somebody that has been consistently mocked to them here. Again, he is somebody that's a little bit more raw, but does have some upside with him as well. Made a name for himself in the Senior Bowl. Really did a really good job there. But this is somebody the Chiefs desperately need, and they need more bodies than anything. So Boy Mafe was a pick here. It was pretty simple for me. They need edge. Just a couple other guys, Cam Thomas, some other guys that possibly could have went here, but Boy Mafe made the most sense.
Damn, Robbie, you really started a run on edge defenders here, man. That's crazy.
Yep, had to get it going. We had that long drop.
7 to 28. There was no one, and then 3 go in a row.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. We'll see what happens there, but no, Kev, that's a really good pick because we know Kansas City's looking at wide receiver. We know they're looking at defense. That defensive line is getting older. They've been trying to continually just hold on with what their pieces have been, but it's about time that they get a new edge. And Boy Mafe has a lot of tools. He's down farther just because it's not fully developed. He needs to develop the technique a little bit more. So I really like this piece as a late first round. Can you develop the tools that he has? And I think they can. So look for him to be maybe a late second half of the season starter, give him good snaps. Tom, let's go to you for pick 31, New England. They traded back. Who are they taking here at 31?
This is the most New England pick, by the way.
This is the easiest pick in the draft. They trade down and they get the player that they would have taken at 21, probably, which is Devin Lloyd here. I mean, I could see them trading down again if a team wants to jump up and take a QB ahead of Detroit or something like that.
Riddler.
Yeah, this is prime trade down spot, which is why it seems like such a New England thing to do. Trade down twice and then, have multiple seconds, future picks next year. But it's such a deep draft this year. Getting the 4th, moving down, getting Devin Lloyd seemed like a no-brainer to me. I don't – this was easy. This was the easiest pick in the draft for me. Every other spot, it was just like, should I go him or him? This one was just like Devin Lloyd. Easy. Go.
Nice. Okay, final pick, man. Damn.
Does that leave Robbie Jeffries with the last pick? Detroit Lions. Yeah.
Hold your tongue, Robbie. Robbie. Not Robbie. Walito. Hold your tongue, Walito. Get it together. He's there.
You jumped the gun.
Yeah. You got it.
Jumped the gift shark in the mouth.
Get yourself together.
No, I like that because I do think people are going to be frustrated with this draft because there's so many defensive players, but we have to be honest with ourselves. This is a very good defensive draft. And Devin Lloyd, he's the first linebacker off of this list, right? He is a guy that's going at, what did we just say, 31? If you told me the top linebacker, whether you have Devin Lloyd, whether you have Quan Murray or Quan, whoever his last name is, so you have some of these guys going a little bit later, like there is going to be a linebacker that goes to a team in the first round. And so we have to acknowledge some of these talents that are going to go above some of these running backs, some of these later wide receivers, these round 2 wide receivers, some of these quarterbacks that we want to take. It's going to happen. So as I build this up, Walito says, never mind. He was a little bit early on the Devin Lloyd. slander here. He does go in the first round at 32. I really struggled here because I think at number 2, I talked a little bit. I'm making both these Lions pick. I talked a little bit about they have a ton of holes, and some of those holes are in the secondary. They could absolutely go cornerback. They have a safety need, and Lewis Sign is right here for them. He needs to be taken in the next couple of picks. But when you talk about a first-round pick and getting that extra 5th year, that's something that I think is really important for the quarterback position. And although they have Jared Goff, and I think he's going to be the quarterback this year, when Matt Corral falls this far to 32, which I don't think he does, when he gets to 32, I have to take him here for the Lions.
Let's go.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is a guy that you can argue. A lot of people have him as a QB1. Some people have the QB2 behind Malik Willis because of the upside with Willis. Some people have him QB3 behind Pickett, but still they don't have him lasting until pick 32. But this is a guy, if you look at the odds, you look at the betting sites, he is going to be a first-round quarterback. And so if we get him all the way back here at 32 for the Lions, it's a fantastic pick for the Lions because they get that 5th-year option. And he's probably – you look at him and Pickett, he's probably one of the more ready quarterbacks to start early in his career, but he doesn't have to. He doesn't have that pressure, right? Jared Goff has run this offense last year. They weren't fantastic, but he's been their quarterback. He can continue to do that. When Matt Corral's ready and that team is struggling, whether they're 2-5 or whatever it is, and he comes in, he can take over that quarterback position. What he might not do right away is take it over because of the offense he ran at Ole Miss. It was kind of that binary, hey, see throw, do the throw. You don't see the throw, take off and run. It's kind of this binary 1-2 option. But as he gets in the NFL, he will learn some more of those progressions, some more of those reads. And so that's the one knock with Matt Corral. But the arm's okay. It's not this Malik Willis, Carson Strong, fantastic arm, but it's not a weak arm by any means. And he's a very smart quarterback. He's a very developed quarterback. He just needs to maybe work on the progressions and his reads. And so I think that's why this is a perfect landing spot where Detroit gets him at 32. They have a pick at 34, but they want to get that 5th-year option with the quarterback. What do you guys think about Corral here? He's our 3rd quarterback. We have no Ritter. We have no Howell. We have no Carson Strong. We have Malik at 6. We have Pickett at 18 with a trade up, and we have Corral here at 32. Tom, what do you think about these quarterbacks?
So Vegas has the line for QBs taken in the first round at 2.5. And
low.
2.5. So Akash, are we going to see 3 quarterbacks in the first round?
I think we can see 4.
You think we can see 4? So are you slamming that 2.5?
I guess. I don't bet much.
I guess.
I'm not a gambler. Yeah.
I think it's possible you could go under. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it's possible. I just think there's so many different directions we could go here. Like I said, like I think nothing would really outside of Malik Willis not going in the first round. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Matt Corral didn't go in the first round. It wouldn't shock me if Kenny Pickett didn't go in the first round. Like, I think all of these things are possible because there's not a ton of teams that just desperately need a quarterback, right? That just absolutely have to take a quarterback. I think there's a lot of teams that are in a position where if they don't want to take a quarterback, they don't. The Lions, for example, if they took Matt Corral at 32, I think it gives them an opportunity to take a look at him. They're not heavily invested into him. And so if next year, let's say they just have a terrible year this year, they have the number 1 overall pick, and they want to go ahead and take, Bryce Young or whatever, they can definitely do that. Mm-hmm. We've seen it before. I mean, look how quickly the Cardinals moved off of Josh Rosen. I mean, I think it's smart to invest. If you want to invest in a quarterback, I think you can. But I just, like I've said, I just don't think this quarterback class is great. And time will tell. Obviously, teams are going to always overvalue quarterbacks. But
exactly.
But I just think that these quarterbacks could go so many different. This could go so many different directions with these guys. There's just I have no firm grasp over any of them, really.
So Kev, I think I'm going under with you as well. And Detroit is a team that, hey, any other year you'd say take quarterback, see what happens. They have Jared Goff. He's going to be Jared Goff. It is what it is. 2023 quarterback class is a lot better. So
the 2023 class the whole it's so much better.
Yes.
But
so if I'm a team, especially like Detroit, I'm not taking a Matt Corral because Jared Goff is probably going to play well enough where it's not egregious, so to speak. And then if you want to be bad to get a quarterback where he's going to be that bad, but it's not going to be like, hey, I'm losing a ton of games because of Jared Goff. So you can justify keeping him in. Whereas if you draft Matt Corral, he has 4 bad games, then you have to put that quarterback in. And if he's bad, then you just wasted a first round pick. I'm not doing that. I'm going to wait on quarterback if I'm like a Detroit in that exact situation. I'll build the team around him, defense, etc., and then I'm going to go from there. So I think I might take that under of 2.5. I'm
going over because I don't think we should underestimate the NFL's the way the NFL overvalues quarterback. And also that like I was saying earlier, when you don't have a quarterback, you should be taking shots anytime you can to try to get one. And there's definitely upside with all these guys, even if we don't like them, even if we don't like their median outcome and we don't like them as prospects, then it's fine because they still all have upside. All of them except outside of Pickett are really good rushers. And even Pickett's a serviceable one. They have that upside because you need a more dynamic quarterback in today's NFL. And just having a quarterback.
Was that the Geno Smith class?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That was a great point, Kev, because that was going to be my next thing, is that we kind of compare this class maybe to the 2019, or at least I have, where 2019 had Kyler Murray, which I would say has more upside than any of these quarterbacks, but it's Malik Willis similar, just not the production that we saw Kyler Murray have at Oklahoma, right? And so you have Malik Willis, and then you have a lot of question marks, right? And you have question marks with Malik Willis. And we had Daniel Jones at 6. We had Dwayne Haskins at 15. And we had Drew Lock at 40-something. And so it's similar. You still have 3 quarterbacks going in the first round there. And I think this is a similar class. Maybe not with the Kyler Murray upside, but you could have 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the first round. If not, that Desmond Ritter's coming or that Matt Corral is coming in the early second. So it's kind of similar there. So I've seen
both of them get hype in the top 20.
Yeah. So I get why you can be down on some of these quarterbacks. But I also think the NFL teams, they want to take their shots on quarterbacks. So I get why we say, hey, not a ton of these teams need quarterback. Well, Panthers do. Seattle does. Detroit can take a shot. Commanders can take a shot maybe. Like there's enough teams
Saints
that can take a shot. Saints, yeah, that's a great – yeah. And we had the Steelers. I didn't even say the Steelers, who we took in this draft. We had the
Eagles. Why not? Throw them in.
There's a lot of possibilities here.
There are teams that could use a quarterback, but I don't think there are teams that are
desperate for one. But
that are desperate for one. And the problem is, like I've said, like if you're one of these teams, like so you're the Texans, you're the Lions, or a lot of these teams that we're probably going to be trash this year. We're probably going to have a top 5 pick next year. Knowing what you know with the quarterbacks that are coming in next year's draft, why waste that pick on a quarterback? Even the Panthers can make that case. They're probably not going to be very good either. And so why waste that pick on a quarterback now whenever next year there is going to be, legitimate 101, 102. It's lock it in. One of those guys are going number 1 overall next year. And so I get it, taking shots on guys. And I obviously that's like my mindset. Obviously, the NFL doesn't think that way. The NFL is like, oh, we got to get our quarterback. We think we can develop this guy. We see this upside with him. That's why we see a lot of these bad quarterbacks do get drafted. I mean, Christian Ponder, I remember when he got drafted in the first round. And exactly. I mean, it happens because these teams think they're smarter than everybody else, right? And they can develop these guys and stuff like that. But I think it's a big mistake. I don't think they should. Again, I still think there's probably 1 or 2 of these guys that comes out, and I'm not talking about elite level play, but could end up being like Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins type quarterbacks, where they're serviceable guys, but they're never going to be. There's not. I don't think there's an elite player in this class.
Yeah, Joe hit the nail on the head. Under 25 is what the NFL should do, but I wouldn't bet on it. I agree with that because it is very possible for teams to reach on quarterbacks. It's like you said. I agree with it. That waiting till 23 and try to aim your sights a bit higher for one of the top quarterbacks next year is ideal. It's what you would do ideally. But what are we thinking? Like Young and Stroud, maybe someone else, a late riser, but then maybe 3 or 4 quarterbacks next year. But you have 6-7 teams who would ideally do that, and so it's not. I like in a perfect world, your favorite team would be able to do that and get a better quarterback as a top 5 pick next year. But not everyone's going to do that, and not everyone is going to want to do that. They're going to try to get their quarterback as soon as possible.
And you have 6 or 7 teams that have multiple first-round picks in the draft next year already. So teams that are already lined up to trade up for a quarterback if they have to. So you thought the wide receiver market blew up as far as trading? Yeah. Wait until next year when a team needs to trade up for a quarterback.
Well, I think there's more than Young and Stroud. I mean, I think you have Will Levis, who a lot of people love. I think you also have Anthony Richardson from Florida that a lot of people have talked about to be a possible first-round pick. So there's a lot of quarterbacks in this upcoming class that I think are going to be very viable picks. So
it's just going to be fun.
There's a lot of elite quarterbacks, especially in the AFC. And so there might be some teams that are sitting there who have a serviceable option, but not a elite potential quarterback. And so they're going to be shooting for the upside with a quarterback here where they think, oh, if I can just figure out how to develop the passing of a Corral or Ritter, then they're going to be so dynamic with their legs as well. And we can have a real force at quarterback as a steal in the late first round. That's what the mentality of teams is going to be.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we had a question a long time ago from Little Boxes here on Twitch, and Texans have, I think, 37. So this is just really early second, and we know Breece Hall is kind of that like, hey, we need a running back, we need him in the second. Let's go there. We know the Texans have that need. They gave Rex Burkhead a 2-year deal. They have really nobody else, right? If Breece goes to the Texans here, do you think he falls out of that 101? I'm guessing maybe Little Box is talking super flex. Maybe he's not. But either way, do we think we dislike the Houston landing spot from a dynasty perspective, or do we like it? Akash, I'll go to you first.
No, that's good. Like Kev was talking about earlier about how running backs landing spot matters a little bit more because you know how their situation is going to impact them, at least for the very beginning of their career, who their competition is going to be at running back. And so when you're Breece Hall, a very good running back prospect, going into a running back room of Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, you're probably going to get a fuck ton of carries, and that's going to lead to a lot of fantasy points, which is what I'm looking to draft there.
Is that in the metric system or?
Yeah. Metric fuck ton.
Metric. Love it.
that is a lot. But I will say this year, I don't think there's like a standout landing spot for a running back that I'm just like, man, because like every year there's normally like, oh man, if a running back goes here, like I don't think there really is that spot.
It's been the Bills for the last couple of years, and it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills
last year, Pittsburgh and Najee.
But you have the Josh Allen problem with him taking away, goal line carries and stuff like that. Yep. Seattle could be a spot. Yes, they brought back Rashad Penny, but it's a 1-year deal. But the offense probably generally is not going to be very good. I mean, I just don't think there's just this like standout like, man, if a running back goes here, that's going to be the guy. Like, I just don't think there is that spot this year. I think most spots running backs will go to. You're just going to – because even, like, I was looking – like, because Atlanta was a spot where I was like, man, I think they, but, I mean, they brought in Damian Williams, which is whatever it is.
Whatever, yeah.
They have him. I mean, Mike Davis, I guess, is still there. He's a bum. Cordell Patterson, how much are they going to use him in the same role, as that kind of in-betweener? We'll see. Like, Atlanta's kind of interesting in terms of just a landing spot. But, again, you have Marcus Mariota, who's a running quarterback. And so that's going to hurt him a little bit. So I just don't think there's just this obvious standpoint.
The Jets, yes. The Jets is good. I mean, the thing with Breece Hall is he's so good as a prospect that there are very few backfields that he could get drafted to that I wouldn't expect him to just push everyone else out of the way. Like, the Colts aren't going to draft him, right? And then probably the Broncos aren't going to draft him. Some of the running backs, some of the teams with 2017 running backs still there, like Fournette, Cook, Kamara, CMC, etc. They're not going to draft him. But all these other running backs that are mediocre at best, then Breece Hall could easily shove them out of the way. Like a Miles Sanders or something. Miles Sanders has been nothing but mediocre throughout his NFL career. Sure, we liked him for fantasy at one point, but at this point, if Breece Hall goes there, I would expect Breece Hall to still smash even with Miles Sanders there.
I'm still holding on to the ghost of Miles Sanders and hope that he's going to stay healthy. When he stays healthy, he's good, right? He constantly
a good yard per carry, but I don't know.
It's just but no, I mean he's a free agent after this year, anyways, isn't he? He's gone, because Josh Jacobs, that class is all
exactly.
free agents. I mean that's why it's wheels up for Khalil Herbert in 2023, for the Bears. And maybe who knows? Maybe the Bears are a spot that could end up taking a running back too.
Put that on screen. Whoever's controlling the comments, I love that.
So.
That would be amazing because it would make all the insufferable Tony Pollard truthers.
I was just about to say that. What if Breece Hall goes to Dallas?
It would make all the Zeke Elliott clingers let go.
Because it could very much be a Javonte Williams situation, right? Where he comes in this year and maybe doesn't get a ton of opportunity, but next year it's going to be wide open because both of them are free. Zeke's going to get cut, because his ass deserves to get cut a long time ago, but. He's definitely gone after this year, 100%. The amount of money they're paying him this year is just fucking stupid. But we can all agree that contract never worked out. The pick never worked out. Nothing about Zeke Elliott with the Cowboys has been good or has helped them or has worked out, right? They
got them a 6-round pick for Mark Cooper.
They didn't. That's Jerry doing Jerry type things. But regardless, both of them, Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott, will both be free agents after this year.
Yeah,
guys, let's round off this conversation because we had, I think it was like 6 wide receivers. We had 3 quarterbacks, and I think we had good conversation on where we'd rank them. But let's talk about really quickly where we kind of peg the next couple of guys that are probably going to be early second round picks. And the guys I brought to the table, please feel free to add to this list. But George Pickens, Christian Watson, Desmond Ridder, Breece Hall, as we had pointed out earlier, and Jahan Dotson, who's actually been a really, really big mocked late first kind of guy to the Chiefs, to the Packers, who name it. He's right there. Who do you guys like out of this group as someone who, hey, he doesn't go first round in this mock, but he's somebody that I'm still looking at, and I'm still really excited about his potential. Tom, I'll go to you first.
Breece, first of all and foremost.
Yeah.
So
sure, we all agree on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. After that, you're looking at Pickens and Dotson, depending on landing spot. This is where landing spot's going to wind up changing rankings for a lot of people in the second round, I think. So wide receivers there. We still haven't seen a tight end go, so we'll probably see McBride go first. That'll push him up rankings, and if he goes in the second. Yeah, I mean, the running backs. I'm excited to see where the running backs go.
Yeah. Kenneth Walker for all of his pass catching glory.
Yeah. Send Kenneth Walker to Jacksonville.
And
so we
Kenneth
have ETN as a wide receiver.
You know Kenneth Walker's going to Buffalo or some situation where you're like
where he doesn't already catch where they're already the running back. Maybe he can score a lot of touchdowns.
Right. Like he's going to a spot where you're like, I love the talent. The situation makes you feel weird. Let's see what we do with it.
How would you feel if Kenneth Walker went to the Chargers?
Hilarious.
Same way. Same way. Yeah.
I really like Ridder. Like I would prefer first round capital Ridder, but I like second round capital Ridder because he's probably going to fall more in rookie drafts and he rushes a lot. And I'm always interested in rostering quarterbacks who rush a lot. Like if he's a second rounder, maybe he doesn't have an easy path to starting right away or even starting within a year. But yeah, Spiller's a good one. Maybe he goes round 3. But with Ridder, I know that the second he starts starting, he's going to give me fantasy points and he's going to increase in value. And so that's something I'm absolutely looking to take in the second round of rookie drafts.
So I actually think the Chargers is a great landing spot for whatever running back goes there. They have been desperately searching for that second running back to go with Austin Eckler. And I don't think Kenneth Walker would be the pick, but I definitely could see some of these other guys, Tyler Algier or somebody like that, Zamir White could definitely go there. And I think that would actually be a pretty interesting landing spot. I think it's possible that, somebody like that would be able to command, 40, 45% of the opportunities in the backfield some goal line opportunities as well. And
that's the right way to do it.
I think it's a low key good landing spot for a running back that not a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah.
In terms of the other wide receivers, though, because I think Jahan Dotson, George Pickens, Christian Watson all have
David Bell. Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
Those three guys are definitely could all go in the first at some point. Christian Watson, I have the biggest concern with because he doesn't have great production. It's all measurables with him, and it's very scary when you line him up to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like it's like one for one, like a clone of each other. Size, speed, everything, production in college, like all of it. Like they are one and the same. And the main reason he's been pushed up is because of his athleticism, right, and how he torched the combine. Because other than that, that's really what his calling card is. Because he didn't really stand out at North Dakota State. But some of that too is because of the situation, the scheme that they ran. They were very run first offense. But regardless of that, so I think he's interesting. But I think George Pickens is super. I think he could be an absolute alpha. In another offense, obviously. He has the 1 year of production. So I think he's interesting. But Jahan Dotson also is a guy that, depending on where he would land, like Green Bay would be another great landing spot. I think that he is probably going to end up being probably the 5th or 6th best wide receiver in this class. And then the David Bell conundrum of, I like David Bell, the player, early producer, all that stuff. Not athletic whatsoever.
No, you don't.
You just wait to see how much the NFL likes him. If he goes round 4 or later, then it's like, all right, I'm a bit out. If he goes round 2 or 3, then I'm in.
He's not going round 2. There's not a chance in hell he goes round 2. I think there's a shot he could go round 3, but I still think he is late 3rd, early 4th. I think is where he goes.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Maybe he's Tylan Wallace. Maybe he's Keenan Allen. Not in play style, just in where he's gonna land, like as a prospect.
Maybe play style. That's not the worst.
I don't know. I never watched
that is one of the things that I am, and sadly, I don't think old Robbie is going to be on the day 2 show, which I'm sad because I want to see. That's one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing where David Bell goes. Because if he doesn't go on that day 2 show, I told you.
And we cry. Yeah, I did that. That's what I was very upset when guys like
Joshua Palmer. It's a good comp. He's the Tyler Johnson of this class.
Call it now. Kev, call it now. Does he go?
I don't think he does. I do not think he goes day 1 or day 2.
He does not go possible. Day 2.
When guys like Joshua Palmer and Anthony Schwartz went above Amon-Ra St. Brown, I was heated because I really wanted Amon-Ra to go highly. It worked out, but a lot of times it doesn't work out. Yes, I love Wanda Robinson. He followed me on Twitter for a little bit, and then he realized his misclick and unfollowed me. But I really like him. He has really good production. And as long as he doesn't go round 4 as well, then I really like him. Yeah. His ADPs right now is like the early 3rd round in rookie drafts, which is an absolute steal.
Yeah. I think Wan'Dale Robinson from a what can he do when the ball's in his hands is really exciting, right? Like we see after he transfers to Kentucky, like they really figure out, hey, this guy's a playmaker when the ball's in his hand. Like you have the concerns, obviously, with the height, the size, that needs to be accounted for. And I think it is why he's getting pushed to the 3rd, 4th round.
Yep.
But this is a guy that's a playmaker when the ball's in his hand. We need to have a conversation about where he goes. I'm a little bit probably lower on him. I think he's kind of in that wide receiver 9-10. We talk about John Mechie right here. I think he's right there in that conversation. He's not higher for me just because when we get to the 5'8" size, I get really concerned about what your upside is. So I will put that caveat on it. But I do think when the ball's in his hand, if he's used correctly, he's absolutely a playmaker. So that needs to be taken into account. But Rondale Moore, same situation, better athlete. We need to find out how to use these guys.
The thing with Wan'Dale and being 5'8" is there's not a big sample of the 5'8" guys. But in theory, I don't think the difference between 5'8" and like 5'10", 5'11" is really that great from upside perspective. Because we've seen guys with smaller frames typically don't have the same like top 5 upside that alphas do, or top 12 even. But I agree that you can still be a good producer.
Over there.
What'd you say?
Tom's over there drifting asleep.
Yeah, no, I see him right there.
Bedtime.
That's okay. Let's let him snooze off a little bit. It's odd. I thought that his screen was locked up for the longest time, but it's just him snapping. So that's okay. Gosh, I love that comment because I don't know. Like I see the same stuff, and I'm like, maybe he is that next guy, but there's just so many questions because you say the 5'8" is the same as the 5'10", but you as an analytical guy, I'm surprised you're not more concerned with that difference because analytically there is a drop off once you get past that like 5'10", 5'9" cutoff.
No, once you get past that, your sample size is reduced to a point where there's very little efficacy. Since 2000 something, like 2010-ish, your sample size for wide receivers 5'8" and under drafted in the first couple rounds is Tavon Austin and Rondale Moore, and that's just not a sample size that's valuable for any type of analysis. And so, in theory, it would be very similar to 5'8", 5'10". What's the difference, right? Because Tyreek Hill's 5'8", but everyone calls him 5'10". So
he's definitely not 5'10". He's 100%.
Oh, he's absolutely 5'8".
Yeah.
Why can't we just call Wanda Robinson 5'10" for the fun of it? Come on.
The Tom thing just had me dead. I'm like, what is going on?
Hey,
and then how did he click out of it? I didn't even see him I didn't even see him move. He just all of a sudden just.
Oh, you removed.
Now I see it. Okay, it's still.
I'm trying to help out here. My guy here, he's my TFA Dino brother. So I got to keep him here. He's talked too much about these rookies. He's enjoyed the process, but he is burnt out. And we appreciate all of you guys rocking with us with this TFA first round NFL draft mock. So, that's all 32 picks. We're done here. We talked about a couple extra guys. We've had Dynasty Infidel falling asleep at the end of the draft, but he's rocking with us. The Godfather, Kevin Steele, and Akash, the youngest and brightest of us all here with TFA. Appreciated him joining us and giving us his thoughts on the draft, guys. Give us a sub. If you guys like what we were talking about, if you're new to the channel, please give us a subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a comment in YouTube or give us a rate and review on the pod side of things. We've had a lot of growth in 2021. We're hoping to repeat that in 2022. Make sure you are checking us out next week. We're going to have a lot of guys on, a lot of people on here for the live draft show, day 1, day 2, Thursday, Friday. We're going to be talking round 1, round 2. There's going to be a ton of fantasy-related, dynasty-related picks happening. Make sure you guys are checking us out here on the channel. Follow us on Twitter at FF_authority. Like I said, that's Kev Steele. That's Akash still rocking with me. I'm Robbie Jeffries. Until next time, we appreciate you guys checking us out. We'll see you next time. Check out the Discord. We're going to put a link in the description. Check us out.